Hey guys, welcome into the live stream. Today I'm going to be going back to, what this channel's really about, not the cooking and philosophy stuff, but actually fixing computers. Sometimes I like to add a little variety there so we all get to know each other a little better. And just going to keep the ball moving. And what this is a computer, a customer contacted me and said that their computer wasn't letting them get online. They couldn't do anything with it. And this is somebody who's in their 80s and doesn't really understand what a mouse is called. Like she's trying to describe to me on the phone. She's clicking on the button on the left to bring up her email, and I'm asking her, what is she clicking to bring up her email? And she says, I'm clicking the button on the thing, the left button. I was like, no, I need to know the icon. Well, what's an icon? You know what? I'm going to have to come pick the computer up. It's a customer I've never had before, and I can't even instruct them to install remote access, which ultimately probably is all I needed to fix this. But I thought, I don't like to do any remote access on a computer I've never seen in person. And the reason for that is I've had it backfire on me where somebody says, the computer's acting really slow. Can you look at it remotely? I've never seen the computer. I reluctantly look at it remotely because they're desperate. Please, I do it. Come to find out, the hard drive's been clicking and I can't hear that, because I'm not there. And while I'm accessing it remotely, the machine stops responding, and come to find out the hard drive completely died. If that customer had followed my procedure, which is to shut the computer off, I'll come pick it up and bring it back to my shop, well, we probably could have recovered data from it before the drive died. So because of that, I really don't, there's very few times I make an exception. If I've never seen a computer in person, or if it's been over a year since I've seen the computer, I do not want to work on it remotely because there may be fans not working, hard drive not working, it may be packed with dust, and then ultimately I can be held accountable for damages that happen. So it's really, as the police like to say, for my safety and yours. So keep that in mind if you're fixing other people's computers, especially if they're paying you, that sometimes, even though your intentions are well-meaning, it can actually cause more harm than good. So I had to drive all the way across town. It's about a 45-minute drive one way to pick up this computer, and it's a tiny little thing. This is in Acer. I've never seen one like this before. She says it's about 2 years old. And it's a Acer Aspire. Looking for a model number here. Looks like XC-603. So I'm not exactly sure what the specs are, but on the back it's pretty simple. You've got power, a couple of USB ports, Ethernet port, a USB 3, an HDMI out, and a VGA out. That's it. But thankfully, it takes a standard power plug. It's not one of those proprietary things like I've shown from HP. Oh, here it's got the specs here on the side. It says AXC-603-UB17. It's Windows 8.1 with Bing, Intel J1800 processor. I never even heard of that processor, which of course has integrated Intel graphics, a 500 gig hard drive, 4 gigs of DDR3, a DVD reader writer, a card reader, and integrated 10-100 1000 gigabit card. It's funny that they put 10-100 1000 because if it's a 1000, it obviously works at 110. If it's 100, it obviously works at 100, and it works at 10. They are always backwards compatible. There's no such thing as just a gigabit card that only works. It just doesn't. This is, I guess, what you have to do to sell things to consumers. You got to make something out to be more than it really is by, stating the obvious. The case is made of premium steel, and genuine, authentic, high-quality plastic, imported from the finest Asian countries. I'm sure they've got to draw the line somewhere, right? So that's the little box there. I think it's older than 2 years old. If it was 2 years old, it should have had Windows 10 on it. I also don't think it would have DDR3, it would have DDR4, unless it was like a clearance model that was already closed out when she bought it. People do this all the time. They have no recollection of how old the computer is. and they tend to err on the side of being younger than it really is. That's why you always see me put the little date sticker on the computers I build. It's very easy to completely forget how much time has gone by. But regardless of that, it is what it is. She said that here's what you have to deal with if you're going to be a technician. I wish I could have recorded the call so you could hear it. She goes, you know, I really don't like this new computer. This is the third time this has happened to me, and it never happened on my old computer. And what I told her was, it's kind of like saying, I don't like my new car. I've already been into 3 accidents in my new car. I was in no accidents with the car I had before. And she kind of chuckled at that, and she's like, well, how am I supposed to prevent it? And I'm like, well, you have to educate yourself. Just like how do you prevent being in a car accident? You've got to learn to be a better driver. So if you're not going to take the time, and she's like, well, I'm in my 80s. Well, it doesn't matter how old you are. That's not a limit to learning. There are courses offered at your community college, and there are senior centers where they do nothing but tutor and teach seniors. Well, it's not just limited to seniors, but seniors are targeted because they're a big section of computer users that didn't grow up with it. It's not natural to them. And I don't have the time to personally tutor individuals. I don't have the patience either, to be honest. And, you've got to start all the way from, this is called a mouse. You've got to go all the way to the beginning. Well, can't you just put some antivirus on it so I can just... And I'm like, well, yes, I'm going to put antivirus on it. I'm going to put Malwarebytes on it when I'm done. But it can't protect you 100% any more than buying a safer car like a Volvo or a Mercedes isn't going to mean you're not going to get into a car accident. And it gets a little frustrating being the tech, trying to... It's not like this is the first time I've had this discussion. I've been having this discussion since day one. It doesn't happen every day, but it happens often. And it's just repetition. It's like I wish I could just hit a record button and hit play and go, here's your explanation. But the difference is when you're talking to somebody, they listen. When you say, here, listen to this, they may not get around to it, or they fast forward through it. And I suppose I shouldn't complain about it. It's job security. But it is one of the frustrating tasks in being a computer technician. And she's frustrated that this has happened to her 3 times. Now, I've never worked with her before, and I'll do my best to, configure the computer in such a way as to make it difficult. But I told her, anything that wants to install or update, don't let it do that. I go, you are infecting this computer. It's not the computer. You are clicking on things. Well, what am I doing? Well, I don't know what you're doing because I'd have to be looking over your shoulder all day, every day. And when you do it, I'd let you know. But I don't have time for that. And it's completely, it's not efficient. It's a waste of everybody's time. So the only solution is education, or you just keep calling and paying me every time it happens. Or if you have a family member that will teach you, and this lady claims she's got no family, the kids don't talk to her anymore, her husband's passed away, she's all alone, and you feel bad for them. And that's the other thing. I went to pick the computer up and she wants to talk to me and talk to me and talk to me and talk to me because she's lonely, and I feel bad for her. But I have other things to do. So I politely work that into the conversation, that, hey, I'm in the opposite situation you are. If there were 3 of me, I still wouldn't have enough time in the day to get everything done. I wish that there was this won't be a problem in future generations because they're familiar with computers and special interest groups, and they'll get together. And there are adult community centers. People that live in retirement communities always have activities, and the retirement communities are always changing. I'm getting the story that all my friends have died and this, that, and the other. And it's the thing about a retirement community that's really good is that there's always people coming and going. New people are coming in, other people are leaving, and they leave for a number of reasons, not just because they're dead, but things in life change and needs change, and suddenly you become part psychologist when you're dealing with many of these customers, especially the older ones, and it's like they're looking for sympathy, but I can't make her any smarter by giving her sympathy. It's not going to prevent the problem. So let's say hello in the chat. What do we got coming in here? We've got Nice crowd. 329 people are watching. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Just going to pick some random people here and say hello to Patrick Manny and Gil Garcia, the cyclist. The Orange is 8. People are being rude. If you're going to be rude, you have two choices. You can leave or you can be kicked out. So everybody here has got to be nice to each other. If you're impatient, you don't think you need to hear the story, you don't need to be here. So I'm not going to even mention any names because I don't want to encourage people that if they act that way that they're going to get my attention. So I'm going to let the admins, should have some admins in here. If not, I will find one. I'll make one rather. And Zugrug says, yo. The Destiny says, hi from Greece. Dean O'Connell says hello. Hi, Dean. Tech Bank says hello from Ventura County. Fernando says hi from Arizona. Elliot Fleming says hello. Ed Sam Gaming is saying hello. Stream Tech says hello. Coolham says hey. Patrick Manny says hi. The Bennett Gamer says hi from Sweden. Hawk says hi from Hungary. Gabriel says hi from Brazil. Nick has some kind words. Thank you. Strumfel is from Romania. Albin29 is saying hello from Sweden. 19DRC93 says hey from sunny Scotland. And Alexander Fellers says hello from South Africa. John Lloyd, hello from Appalachia. Raymond Riviera says hello from Adelaide. We've got Aliz Tapaj from Slovenia. Carl's in Washington. Luna is in North Carolina. Mario Bonillo saying hello from Malta. That's pretty cool. Pablo's saying hello. Hi, Pablo. And Tack says hello from Jamestown, New York. Vivid Mac 101 says hello from Ontario, Canada. Fire 7 Storm says hi from Canada. Christopher Raybone, hi from the UK. Mr. Choco Gamer says bonjour from France. Daryl Ginwright says hello from Las Vegas. David Vanilla says hello from Spain. Wow, we've got folks from the Netherlands, Belgium. There's far too many. I could spend all day just reading, giving shout-outs out, but we got one from Italy here. Stephen Miller, hello from Michigan. And Real Navajo Fishing says hello from Phoenix. Hello from Greece, hello from UK, hello from Bulgaria. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. So let's get to work, shall we? Normally, the first thing I want to do on any computer that comes in for repair, no matter how simple the repair appears to be, is to verify the repair is not more complicated than what the customer says. Never believe the customer. Never, ever. You have to physically check everything. You need to be thorough if you want to be good. And if you want to stay in business a long time, you need to be good. You need to be consistent. And that means you need to check everything. So I'm going to open this thing up and take a look at what's on the inside. I've never seen one of these before. So far, I'm liking the way the case design looks pretty standard for this form factor. I'm not a fan of these little CPU fans. Not a fan of the fan. There is laptop memory in here. This is an SO-DIMM and a socket for another one. That's good that it's expandable. There's no expansion bays in here, despite the fact that on the end of the case there are 2 slots. I'm not sure why that's there, since you can't really do anything with it. And then we've got a slot here that appears to be either, looks like it's a Wi-Fi slot, so maybe that would be for placing antennas, I suppose. Some mini ITX board, a proprietary power supply, which is going to be standard for any small form factor. And of course, you've got this cage here that's holding in the DVD. There's nothing, well, there should, probably the hard drive is behind that. Yeah, it's a standard, you can't really see it, but behind this, there's a standard hard drive, 3.5-inch desktop hard drive. And it looks like this just pops off. Yep. I like designs that follow industry standards. My guess is removing these 2 screws, I'm hoping you guys can see this okay, will result in this whole cage coming out to be able to get to the hard drive to replace it or upgrade it. Obviously, this machine would do a lot better and be faster and lighter if it had a solid state drive and more memory in it, but I'm sure it wasn't very expensive. And this customer has just a little monitor, like a little square monitor, which I haven't seen anybody use in a long time. We've got quite a bit of dust buildup in there, and I'm not going to hit this with a leaf blower because I'm live and I can't really, I'd have to stop the stream and take it outside and you guys will have to sit and wait. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to go the old-fashioned way with a can of compressed air, which I have here. It doesn't look too bad. I don't really like blowing the dust in my house. However, hopefully I don't regret this. It doesn't look too bad. I always want to blow out the power supply. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Not too bad at all. A little piece of plastic came out, which is good. We definitely don't want that in the case. Just put that there for now. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. Just looking here in the chat, someone's asking if I've gotten a zoom. I can't operate the camera and be in front of the camera at the same time. It's just not physically possible. And I've had a number of people who have offered to help me with this process, and nobody has followed through. So I've actually have projects I've put off waiting for somebody that said they were going to help, and then the project doesn't get done, and then the people who I'm doing the project for get really upset with me that it's taking such a long time. So it's real easy to criticize about, and this is why I initially said I would never go live, is because I don't have somebody to move the camera around. So it's either this or nothing at this point. This computer has to be done. I could have done it last night, but I wanted to save it to share it with you guys. So the customer's waiting an extra day for that. So if you don't get a Zoom, you know, I don't know what to tell you. It's just me, all by myself. I've got to do everything on my own. And there's not a whole lot of money to be made in this. I'm doing it because I want to share what I know. I want to share and empower the world with this information for those who want it, and not make you pay a lot of money to go to school and end up, you know, learning more from a free video than you would at a trade school. So I apologize that I don't have $1 million budget and a bunch of editors and sound people and script writers and sound and lighting. It's just me. So it is what it is. And what I'm going to do is try to see, are there any admins in the chat room? If you're an admin in the chat room, please let me know right now if you would. Otherwise, I need to find one. We're getting pretty crowded. We're almost up to 400 people watching. And tell you what, let me just check something here real quick before we get started. This is, again, I can't do all this by myself. And as long as people are going to misbehave, there needs to be an admin. So that's just an unfortunate consequence of going live. I think ban everybody. I like that. Just looking through for a familiar name. Somebody who's been a regular in the chat that I feel I can trust. And I apologize if I'm not recognizing you. You might be a loyal viewer. There's specific people I'm looking for, and I'm not seeing any of them. Oh, you guys crack me up. All right. There's a moderator. All right. So I'm going to ask you, don't abuse your powers as a moderator. Be nice to people. Even if they're being rude, give them a chance. Give them an opportunity to straighten up. And if they don't straighten up after that, then you can kick them. And if you abuse your power, I'm taking it away. So putting some trust in you. Is it Alex? And thank you. Thank you for your help. I do appreciate it. Okay, let's get started. The magic number. We have 420 people, 420 watching. Make your own jokes about that. And who did I make the mod? Alex Paramore is the mod. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now, I have to use the monitor that I'm right now that I'm using to talk to you guys. That's why I need a moderator, because I need to use this monitor for this system, and then I will zoom the camera in on the screen so you can see what I'm seeing. So I will be sort of blind to what you guys are doing, and I will trust my moderator to do a good job. Okay, so I'm going to need a power cable. Let me go grab a power cable. Thought I was all ready when I started the stream, and simple things I forget sometimes. Here's a brand new power cable, never been used before. All right. I think this is going to be a pretty easy repair, but sometimes the ones you think are going to be the easiest turn out to be the most difficult. We'll see what today is got in store for me. All right, so we got plugged in there, and then I'm going to steal my wireless keyboard and mouse from the system I'm streaming from, since I don't need to type in or anything or use the mouse since I can't see what's going on anymore. And then I need to, let's see, the monitor needs VGA or HDMI. I'm using DVI right now, so I'll just use the built-in VGA cable since it's convenient. We'll bring that around here and plug this in, like so. And I know there's a power button on here somewhere. I haven't memorized where it is yet. There it is. I always like to check and make sure fans are turning, so we're okay here. The power supply fan is turning as well. Those are the only two fans in the system. Sometimes the fans stop, the customers don't even know. I've got to tell the monitor to switch over to VGA. I might have unplugged the monitor when I was messing with the plugs. I really don't like this monitor. It's got a really loose power plug. It goes in where it just kind of hangs from the bottom, and it's very frustrating sometimes, where you're like, where's my monitor? And come to find out the power light's not even on because the cable fell out. Really bad design from Dell on that. All right, let's see if we can get you zoomed in on that screen so you can see what I'm seeing. In fact, let me move everything over a little bit, so I don't want to turn the camera. How's that look? Can't see the other side. I think we're there. Okay. So we're already getting an alert. Windows Firewall has blocked some features of this app. That's fine. I don't want to allow access. I'm just going to hit cancel on that. And what happens when she brings up her browser, you can see even the top browser, there's no red X to close this. I'm not even sure what this is. This is some kind of weird toolbar up here. And I don't have the internet plugged into it on purpose. And it throws you because it looks like this is the top of your browser when in fact it's a toolbar, and the top of the browser is down here. I'm used to toolbars being below, within the browser, and this toolbar is actually on the desktop. Now, before we go running any antivirus, one of the very first things I recommend people do is to simply go to your control panel and look to see if you can uninstall some of this stuff. Now look what came up here, PC Accelerate. So this customer has no idea how this got on their system, but I guarantee you this customer clicked on install. They clicked on something and it came and said, "You want to install this?" And they said yes, and that's how this got on there. And she's telling me she has no recollection of ever doing that, but I promise you, this is the only way this gets on here. Whether it was an email attachment, which more than likely it was a link in a website, and it tricked her into installing this. But again, as far as she's concerned, she has no recollection of that. You can't really get rid of it. It says proxy check has stopped working. That's really poor programming right there. And we really just want to go to removing programs. Let's see. I know they moved this. Remove. No. I'll look under uninstall. Can't remember which one of these it's under. I always like the traditional control panel. You'll see it says instant support right here. This is spyware. Prime updater. This is spyware. There's instant support. I can move this computer a little bit so you hopefully, can you guys see this side of it at all? Right down. I'll move this over a little bit. It's really hard. Wish I had a cameraman. Okay, just point this down a little bit. There we go. All right, add or remove programs. That's what I want. Many of this may have legitimate uninstalls, and that's why you should start there before trying to force the removal of the application. And let's see, apps and features. Now CPC Accelerate came up again. She is completely unable to access the internet at all. She's lost control of this computer because of this behavior. And I can keep closing it and it just keeps opening, and it may not even let us uninstall, but the computer is so slow just by default, this is not helping things. This pops up another window. Apps and features isn't bringing up anything so far. Oh, there it goes. It just took a while. And I can't seem to close this window. I can click OK on there. Continue with issues. It says 172 issues detected, and I bet 171 of them are this program itself. Don't believe that stuff, so let's close that. And again, it still goes through the same process, right? So I see she's got AdBlock Plus, which is interesting that if she doesn't know anything about computers, how does she know about AdBlock Plus? I imagine somebody installed that for her. This has popped up here. Anytime you see stuff like that, it's all spyware, and it has made this computer useless. There's a driver update, which is from Slimware, which is actually a legitimate program, but somebody who doesn't know anything about computers has no business with that kind of software, because they will bring their computer to its knees because they don't know what they're doing. And then some of this, I'm sure, came with the Acer computer. Like you'll see there's eBay Worldwide. I'm sure many of that was prepackaged as just bundled junkware with the computer. And they're really just icons that are added to the start menu and desktop. I've seen that from HP and Dell and other manufacturers, so that's not really surprising. This is very time consuming. Even though what I'm doing is really, really simple, because the computer is so underpowered, to do the simplest tasks takes, many times longer than it would if it were a more modern, faster computer. And that's why it's discouraging when you're a computer technician, when somebody wants you to work on a system that's like 7 years old or older. And if you bill them by the hour, they'll be outraged at how much money it's going to cost. That it quickly, within an hour, you've surpassed the value of the computer, and within a couple hours, you could have replaced the whole computer. And I'm an honest guy. I won't, if I see a computer's going to require a lot of labor, I'll just be honest with the customer and say, you know, you're better off using the money you would spend on the repair to invest in a new machine. And it's not always what they want to hear, but generally speaking, customers do appreciate the honesty. And I mean, here we're still just trying to remove something very, very simple, and it's just taking forever. And that's one of the other things, you know, when you do a live feed, you're seeing the real process, not like an edited video, an edited repair, where this can be done in what appears to be 5 minutes. It's not setting realistic expectations on behalf of the people you're trying to educate. And when people encounter this stuff, they think, well, something else must be wrong. But no, if you're dealing with an old or underpowered computer, as this was a very underpowered computer, it just takes much longer to do the most simple task. And it's generally the people who have the cheaper computers that have the most problems. That's not a coincidence. That's not to say that this poor old lady wouldn't still get a more modern computer infected any differently, but it could have been done by now if it was a computer I built. So like, I wouldn't even build a computer like this. It would just make me look bad. And I'm running out of patience with this. I mean, if I hit cancel, even canceling it's probably going to take a while. But this is always the first step, is to look for these programs. Like, she's got Java on here. You need to have Java removed. Nobody should have Java, as far as I'm concerned, unless you are a specialist and you know exactly why you have it and what you use it for. It is a very dangerous program to keep on your computer. Same with Flash. So what I'm looking for, there's this something called Proxy. I don't see that here. There's PC Accelerate Pro is in there, so I'm going to uninstall that. And let's see if it'll actually come off. In most cases, it does come off. It may not come off completely. It'll make you think it's off. Some are more honest than others, so I still run an antivirus after this. However, this is always the very first step, just to make sure you get the most thorough clean possible, right? We take out the bulk of it, and then we come in with the antivirus or anti-malware program and pick up all the little detritus that's left over. Computer needs to be restarted. Would you like to reboot now? No, because there's probably other things that it's going to want to reboot afterwards. Reimage repair. Let's get rid of that. Reimage is an authentic, it's a real thing, but again, with somebody with limited PC knowledge, it's very dangerous. There's something called savings cool. Relevant knowledge, I would take all of this off. The other thing you can be your indicator is the date things were installed. This shows it was installed recently. This was installed recently. You can even sort you used to, but you should be able to sort by date of installation, and you'll know what came with the computer versus what's been added recently. So finally, we're getting reimage removed. I see this Prime Updater. I see Prime Up right here. You see everything was installed on the 10th of July. And sometimes you can just take everything out. I mean, if this person lived with this computer all the way up through July 10th without these programs, then chances are they don't need these programs. And if there is one they need, you'll hear about it after you bring the computer back. But it's clearly not a paid application, so it's not like you're doing your customer any harm. She's got Slim Cleaner on here. Again, it's a authentic, real program. However, in the wrong hands, it can cause harm, right? It's like giving a child a gun. It's just not a good idea. Bad things are going to happen. And then we've got Prime Up. Let's uninstall that. And I want to see this Prime Updater box go away. Uninstall. Many of these uninstalls should auto-close the application. Some of them can't, and that's why you need to reboot. So when the application gets shut down with the computer, then it gets removed on the next boot. So don't panic if that happens. Savings cool, don't know what that is. It's coming off. What else do we have? System Keeper. I don't even know what System Keeper is. Let's look. System Keeper. There it is right there. It was installed on July 31st, so just a few days ago. So you can see this customer actually has had these problems since the 10th of July is the earliest infections, and it just got worse from there. And that's usually the way it happens. If customers would contact the minute they have a problem, it would certainly make my job a lot easier, and it would take less time and cost the customer less money. Time is money. For this lady, I'm doing everything on a flat rate because I was able to take it back here, and I'm making money from the video. Not much, but here's Web Discover Browser. That's going. She's got this Xbox application. She doesn't need an Xbox application. I can guarantee that. So that can come off. Well, apparently not. It's grayed out. And let's just, she doesn't use Spotify. That can come out. That probably came with the computer. It's dated July 9th, 2014, which I'm guessing is about the age of the computer. This computer being 3 years old sounds more accurate than it being 2. But again, this just goes to show this is what you get from customers. They don't really have an idea of how old the computer really is. It's very common. Nero Backup, that came with the computer. It's fine. Microsoft Wi-Fi is fine. All the Word stuff, Solitaire, that's all good. Maps, Mail, and Calendar. I don't know what this is. Based on July 10th, I can uninstall it. Yes. Oh, it wants me to close KNCTR. I don't know what that is, so I'll hit Control-Alt-Delete, go to the Task Manager, and look for KNCTR and close it. Go under, let's see, it's all alphabetized. I don't see it running, but I do see a lot of instances of Chrome, and all of these instances of Chrome can be closed. So we're just going to end task on these and shut them down because it may be a Chrome extension that's running. And we'll just go through them. And this is just another sign of infection. This is real easy stuff you can look for. And the only software I'm using as an antivirus is my brain. I know all of these don't belong in here. And like I said, some of these infections may be using Google Chrome is their foundation for install. And we just need to close all these down. You see, it's very interesting, all the little text boxes you see popping up there as I shut them down one by one. It's also a reason why the computer's running so slow. It's juggling a lot of tasks. There's driver update running in the back. It's going to work now. Nope, still says that that application is running. There's that prime updater. We can end task on that. I don't know what this relevant knowledge is, but I'm closing it out because I know I don't need it. Slimware utility service can be ended. Slimware session can be ended. To do can be ended. Let me do it now. No, still something else. Now you can go through these. I don't know if there's a way to search, but you can look to see if any of the tasks, by clicking the little arrows, see if that process is related to any of these tasks. And then you'll know which task to shut down. And I'm not seeing it. Okay. Well, you're not going to be able to get them all anyway. So we'll let the antivirus take care of that. She's not going to need GoToMeeting. And once again, July 8th, 2017. It's working a lot faster now. Let's uninstall that. There's another. Let's see if we can take driver update out from Slimware now. It's going to take forever. Remember last time it just sat there. It's moving much faster. So as we're freeing the spyware up off of the machine, it's starting to work much more efficiently. I'm going to take, no, I guess I can leave AdBlock Plus on there. I'm just so skeptical that it's not real because of everything else. Here it says sort by name. We'll change that to sort by install date. Well, some of this may have come in from Windows updates, which may be why like the Xbox thing isn't offering an option to remove it. There are advanced options, but it's not spyware. It's just something I know she's not going to use. Sort it by date again. Photos, Adobe Reader's fine. This thing, I really want to remove it, but it's not letting me. Detected that KNCTR is running. Okay, well, this relevant knowledge is something that was installed recently. Sometimes they have things like that that come with the PC. So I'm a little reluctant to remove them. Sometimes they have like how-to videos and they're run through this application. Savings Cool needs to go. Windows 10 update and privacy settings. I think that's legit. I don't know. That could be spyware. The weather application is a waste of time. She doesn't need an Amazon icon. Anybody can just go to Amazon. Live Updater is from Acer. That's to update the Acer software, Acer Explorer. That's all legit. Now we're getting into 2016, and I think everything else is probably going to be fine. I want to get rid of Java. Let's get that out of there. You'll see she's got both the 32-bit and the 64-bit version of Java. So just a double security risk right there. And then we can reboot the computer once this last one's been taken off. We'll reboot, and then I should be able to safely connect it to my network. Anytime you connect it to your network, though, you're risking spreading any infection. So you could use a flash drive, something like that. I'm not too worried about that on my network. It's pretty secure. Let's go ahead and restart. And hopefully it'll start up a lot faster than it did, and we won't get all the pop-ups that we had. We should see a significant difference just in the little work that we've done. And then, of course, when I'm done, when I've made sure that all of the spyware has been removed, then I'll do the regular tune-up, which is cleaning up all the temp files, making sure Windows Update is fully up to date, and then putting Malwarebytes on there, and we're going to put a license on there for a year. That's part of my service that I offer for clients that don't know how to do it themselves. I'll check the power settings, make sure that it's set to operate at full power. I delete the hibernation file and turn hibernation off on desktops. There's no sense in having it. That is designed for extending the life of batteries on laptops. I don't know why people with desktops use it. I guess they think it's more ecologically sound, but it tends to create a lot of problems with crashes and things where a computer won't wake back up, or when it wakes back up, USB things won't reconnect, or when it wakes back up, the network doesn't reconnect. For other people, it works fine, but usually it's a matter of time before it starts causing problems. And again, what's the point? What is the point? I mean, just have your computer run full power and have it turn the monitor off after like 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, and you're good to go. You don't need to do anything. You don't need standby. Once again, that's really just to extend battery life, and if you have a laptop, that's what that stuff is for and where it should be used. So this already looks better. Of course, it hasn't fully loaded yet, but I see a nice clean desktop. I haven't seen any pop-ups yet. And I am going to grab a network cable and plug it in. And what I'm going to do next is what I've advised you guys in other videos that I encourage everybody to do, and that is to install the free Emsisoft Emergency Kit. Emsisoft is not a sponsor. They don't pay me anything. I'm a real technician, and these are the tools I choose to use. And I'm sharing that knowledge with you for free. Take it or leave it. There's no hidden agenda here other than to empower you with knowledge. Do you want your PC to be discoverable? No, don't need that. Let's open the browser. And be patient, because it's taking forever. Oh, there's that utility that I was trying to get to take off a minute ago. That's whatever that control panel is. Let's close. Now that I've closed it, I wonder if it's going to let me take it off. Back to the control panel. Now, for this little old lady, it's not a big deal that it's running this slow for her, because she's only on it for a few minutes every day. And the whole, like I said, she doesn't even know what the mouse is called. So it's not like performance is a real important thing for this person. This proxy check error that I'm getting is obviously part of a piece of malware. So let's go back to the K's. The thing was under K. This Acer video player, I would replace that with VLC. I know it's safe, and I know that if the customer ever downloads or tries to view any video that says you need to download a codec, that's fake, and you're going to get yourself infected if you do it. So if VLC won't open it, it's bad. Don't try and open it with anything else. Find another source for that video file. Let's see, looking for the K's. There we are. Let's see if it's going to let me uninstall it this time. No, it still says the process is running. Okay. And I don't know why my Google Chrome hasn't opened. I'm going to try it again. Not a good sign. So you guys might have the impression that this is clean enough, but it is not clean. There is still malware running on this, and that's just the malware I can see. There's plenty of malware I'm betting that you can't see, and that's why I encourage everybody to run the Emsisoft Emergency Kit, regardless of how clean you think your computer is. No matter what antivirus you run, or no matter how safe you think you are, I bet Emsisoft will find something. Well, see, there's still something on here. I bet Emsisoft will find something, and you're not as clean as you think you are. I'm just going to do a search for, well, she's got ask set as her search, which is pretty bad. Emsisoft Emergency Kit is not coming up. This is coming from discrete search. I don't know what that is, so we're going to go to Google. Once again, this little old lady isn't worried about hiding her searches. She doesn't even really understand what a search is. So this was put on probably by her unknowingly. That's more than likely. I've seen that more often than not. And it still took me back to that discrete search again. We'll try this one more time. Your privacy will be protected by redirecting. That's not good. Search incognito. So clearly there's add-ons into the browser. So I'm going to go into the settings of the browser. Look at all these add-ons in here. I'm just going to go to settings, into Google Chrome, and I'm going to look for it's hard for me to see it. You guys are seeing it better than I can. There's the search engine, default browser, advanced. Let's just reset. reset the whole browser rather than going through all the add-ons one by one and removing them. And the antivirus would probably do most of that for us anyway. Then let me close the browser and reopen it again. Back under settings, much better. That looks much more normal. We're back in Google. All right, Emsisoft EEK. Oops, don't want settings to reopen. Emsisoft EEK. That's what I want right there. Download now. And then just wait. It's downloading right down here in the bottom left corner. We've got a lot of things in the download folder. You'll see this a lot from people who aren't real computer literate. When you see a parenthesis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are all duplicates of the same file they're downloading over and over and over again, and they don't know where the download is going. They can't find it, so they download it again, and it goes to the same place. And they couldn't find it the first time, so what makes them think they're going to find it repetitively, doing it over and over and over again? And I see this all the time. And you can safely go through here, because I don't know if she wants any of this stuff, but I know she doesn't need 4 copies of the same exact thing. So anything that's got a parentheses with a number after it is a duplicate, and those can all be removed safely without worrying about, well, here's PC repair setup. She's downloaded that 6 times. I'm going to delete all of that. And sometimes people do this. They're trying to save money, and they think they can fix it themselves by downloading more software, which, you know, multiplies the problem. So I'm going to just delete all that stuff. That can all go. And you'll see it's just rife full of this, just full of it. This driver update was downloaded 4 times. So how can she sit there and tell me I have no recollection of doing that as if she just did it once, when clearly she did it with intention? This is not done with one mistaken click. This is a mistaken click, click, click. She is intentionally doing something, and she has no idea what she is doing, and she is doing it repetitively, right? It's not like she just did it once. So that repetition is where it's happening. She's downloading something for some reason, and I don't know what it is, why she's doing it, because I wasn't there at the time. But there are tons of duplicates all over. Okay, so here's the Emsisoft Emergency Kit, which went into the same folder as everything else. And then let's go ahead and run that. That's going to create a directory on the C drive called EEK. It doesn't actually install anything. It's just copying the files into a root directory on the hard drive. And then while it's doing that, I'm going to empty the recycle bin. And free that hard drive space up. There we go. Now this runs, I don't know, what is it, around 300 megs. It's only going to get bigger as time goes on, because as more and more viruses come out, each and every day 100,000 new viruses or malware are released to the internet every single day. So, you know, when she talks about how her old computer never had this problem, her old computer was at least 3 years ago. So 100,000 viruses every day times 3 years, that's 365 days times 3. That's over 1,000 days of 100,000 viruses. What is that, 10 million? A billion? I lose track of the math. The numbers are so big. There are more threats out there today than there were 3 years ago. So the way she's putting this together, that this is a problem with the new computer, it goes to show you how somebody who's not computer literate, how they think, what their logic is. And it helps to understand the way they're thinking in order for you to be able to help them. In order for you to be able to educate them and explain to them how this happened or what they can do to prevent it, you have to understand what their logic is in coming to the conclusions that they're coming to. And it doesn't help to insult them. It doesn't help to make them feel bad. They simply lack experience. And nobody is born with this knowledge. It all has to be shared, and whether it's shared via books or YouTube or a friend. You weren't born knowing this. I wasn't born knowing this. Nothing about this is natural. Now, if you're lucky enough, I'm going to say lucky, but if you're a millennial and you grew up with technology, it's not foreign to you. You were brought up with it. So this form of logic of how things happen, the way programs work, is something you learned early on. But again, you weren't born with it, but you figured it out when you were younger. And then you probably learned from, again, a YouTube channel, a website, a friend, and they taught you. But you just learned at a very young age. Imagine, you're in your 80s and computers didn't exist until, 30 years ago. Home computers just didn't exist. So if you were 50 years old, the very first time a computer came out, long before the internet, you probably had no interest in it. It wasn't until the internet came out that suddenly, over time, everybody started using it as a way to communicate. And now if you don't have it, you can't talk to anybody anymore. You kind of get forced into it, whether you like it or not. Kind of like having a cell phone. I put off owning a cell phone for a very long time. I was one of the last people I know to have one. And it got to a point where I had to have it. And now, of course, now that I have it, I can't imagine life without it. But, my thought was, when I'm driving in my car, I don't need a distraction. And this is before texting. I don't need the phone ringing while I'm in the car. I've never had it before in my entire life. Why do I need it today? It never existed before. Again, if you're brought up with it, you don't know life without it. So there's two different perspectives depending on the generation you're from. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to show a little consideration and respect for a generation that did not grow up with this stuff. It doesn't mean they're stupid. They're probably a lot smarter than you are. So show a little compassion and understand that this is not natural. This has to be taught. And people may not have had a reason to learn it until now. And if the customer, like this customer, says, I want to prevent this from happening in the future, what do I do? The answer is you have to educate yourself. And a lot of people that are older are like, I don't want to bother to do that. They don't say that word for word, but the things that they say are just kind of leaning that direction. It's like, how can I be smarter? Well, you have to open up a book and read, or you have to take a class. Okay, but without doing any of that, how can I be smarter? I don't know. You can experiment until you see patterns, but you're still going to run into walls, you're still going to crash, and when you do, you're going to have to keep calling me, or you're going to have to find somebody who's going to help you when you do that. And then you get up and you dust yourself off and do it again. And that's why I say 1,000,000 times in my videos, you cannot simply watch videos or read websites and say you're an expert at a certain thing. You have to have actual experience in doing it. So by making these videos, I'm showing you real experience in the process, but it still won't replace your own experience because you're not going to work on the exact same things I'm working on. So things are going to pop up on your screen, or you're going to have different infections, or you're going to have different obstacles where you're going to have to figure out how to get around those. That's what makes you smarter. Even if you're doing research on the web to find out how to do it, it's the actual doing it that's where you're learning, not in the reading it, not in the watching the YouTubes. The YouTubes. That's just the way humans learn. And you can talk yourself, you can tell yourself whatever you want to believe is fine with me, right? You can say, I don't know what I'm talking about. You know all this stuff because you've watched videos, but it doesn't change reality. And the reality is, until you've actually done it, and you have to do it over and over and over again to be an expert. Like for 7 years, to be considered an expert in a U.S. court of law, you have to be doing a trade for 7 years and be paid to do it. Then you can testify as an expert. You can't say I've been reading about it for 7 years, or I've been watching videos about it for 7 years. That doesn't make you an expert. And the other thing I often tell people is, if you were dying and you needed an appendicitis and you were on an island, and on that island there were 2 people that could do it. One person who's done it 100 times but has no education, and another guy who graduated Harvard Medical School with honors, but he's never performed the operation ever, but he knows the theory behind it. It's your life, and it's your appendix, your appendix that's got to get removed. Who do you want to remove the appendix? The guy who's done it 100 times, or the guy who knows how to do it, aces all of his tests, passes with honors, has the degree, but he's never actually done it before? Do you want to be the first? I'll take the guy with experience any day over the guy with education, because experience is education. In fact, without experience, there's nothing to teach. So experience always has to come first. So right now what I've done is I've let Emsisoft extract itself into the directory, I've started the executable, and I'm installing all of the latest antivirus updates or anti-malware updates. And I predict this thing's going to magically go away. And this does take a little while to run it. It's already downloaded the updates, and now it's installing the updates. This process can take, depending on the computer, you know, how big your hard drive is, how full it is, how slow it is, how much memory you've got, what kind of processor you have. This can take anywhere from 20 seconds to 20 minutes. So we just have to wait it out. And it's really critical that you have all the latest updates before you begin your scan, because you might have a brand new infection. Chances are you do. And you're going to need the latest virus definitions to locate it, to identify it, and remove it. I'd love to be in the chat room right now and see what you guys are saying. Unfortunately, like I said, because I'm using the monitor, I can't use the monitor for both things. So once I get the infection cleaned up, I'll jump back in and communicate with you guys. But this is a real repair. What I don't like are YouTube videos that simulate. And most YouTubers create simulations. Like when they test an antivirus, they're infecting a computer with a certain number of viruses, and then they run all these different antiviruses against the same threats to see which one identifies most. To me, that's an invalid testing routine. The best way to test is to grab a real computer with real infections and then see how the antivirus runs. I've done nothing but real world testing in my career. Everything I've done is a test. And I have found that this Emsisoft Emergency Kit over the last couple of years, I first learned about this about 2 or 3 years ago, has been wonderful at detecting things that other anti-malware products don't detect. And what the big one is for me is the potentially unwanted programs. There's not a potentially unwanted program that I want. And I've never removed, when Emsisoft says it wants to remove something, I remove everything Emsisoft recommends gets removed. And I've never had a customer, not once, ever had a customer say, you removed something I needed. That has never happened from running Emsisoft. Now, I have manually gone through and uninstalled things where later on the customer says, oh, you know, I had this application for, I don't know, I had a guy that was into ham radio operation, and I guess there's like a ham radio simulator, but he just had to re-download it and install it. It's not a big deal. It wasn't like it was a paid application or anything. And even if it was a paid application, he'd still have the ability to reactivate it. So it's not the end of the world. I'd rather err on removing obscure things that the customer actually wants versus leaving obscure things that the customer doesn't need, and it ends up just causing trouble down the line. It gets to be a support call, a warranty call. Customer says, I already paid you to do this. And you go, well, this is a new problem. They go, no, it's not a new problem. You just didn't do it right the first time. You get a big argument, and that's not the way to run a sustainable business. You've got to keep your customers happy. And best to do it right the first time. And that makes your customer happier, it makes you more profitable, and it frees you up to make more money from other customers and other jobs. So that's why you got to be thorough. Or you keep going back and revisiting the same problem over and over and over again, you're going to find it hard to stay in business. And you're going to find it hard not only to make money, but to keep customers, because they're going to get sick and tired of it. So that's part of the business, and it's part of any business. This icon down here is obviously related to this, so if I could right-click on that, close, it's going to let me close. Nope. This is updated now. Oh, it did close. Now I'm going to just do malware scan. Let's wait for the program to respond. Close all these messages out. I'm sure there's probably a little box I could click to turn that off. So here's an example of real world, right? I could simulate a virus clean, and never experience this in a simulation. But here we are with a real computer, with a real infection, running the real program with real update in real world time, and I'm seeing a problem I've never seen, which is the program has stopped responding, and I don't know why. It's pretty interesting. Now, this is not a really big deal. You can either sit and wait for the program to come back, if it will, or we can manually shut it down and restart it. We've already got the updates, so we don't have to wait that long time again. So I hit, well, here, let's close the program. Like I said, I've never seen Emsisoft do that before, and it may have been related to me closing that other app because it is spyware. It may have like an application that it runs that interferes with its removal. I've seen that. So I'm just restarted the application again. I've explained to people that being a computer technician involves a lot of patience. There's a lot of waiting for the computer to do what you've instructed it to do. Something as simple as a virus scan on older computers that have a lot of data can take 90 minutes or longer, which is why I don't like to do things on site. Because what do I do for that 90 minutes while I'm waiting for the computer to do a virus scan? I'm going to twiddle my thumbs and then bill the customer by the hour for that? Or am I supposed to bill a customer a flat rate and be stuck in their home? And their home may have pets that I'm allergic to, or they may have dander, dust, maybe, some people have really nasty homes. Otherwise, it's just awkward to sit there and try and find small talk. Or the customer wants to small talk you to death or ask you a million questions, which is distracting from getting the job done. Do you want to detect potentially unwanted programs? Always say yes, yes. Now, the question is, how many infections, since I've removed the software, let's place bets now, how many infections do you think it's going to find? I think it's going to find, I'm going to guess somewhere around 70. That's what I think. So far it's detected 0, so we're looking right here to see how many it finds. I'll be surprised if it's under 70. And I just, again, talking from experience, based on the behaviors I'm seeing and what I've seen in the past, that would be my best guess. And it's just an educated guess. I could be way off. So put it in the chat. Tell me what you think it's going to be. Don't tell me after it's done, because I'm not going to believe you. And the other thing I like about this Emsisoft Emergency Kit is it's relatively quick compared to other virus scanners. It really knows which areas to scan and which areas not to scan, so that it doesn't waste your time scanning areas that don't need to be scanned, right? Certain files can't be infected, like text files or things like that are highly unlikely to be infected with anything. It's usually DLL files or executable files, files of that nature. So we're at 7, which isn't too bad. Oh, it just jumped to 18. And we're far from done. We are in section 5 of 5 of the malware scan. And this is where it's actually going through many of the files on the hard drive, whereas before it was looking through the registry in critical areas. Now it's looking through the most time-consuming part, where viruses are sometimes hidden. So we went to 19 there. What's great is this program is free. You can all run it. Like I said before, it doesn't matter what your current antivirus is. This will run alongside of it, give you a free second opinion. And the best thing that can happen is it finds 0 on your computer. And then you can rest assured that there's a good chance your computer is really clean. And then if it comes up with even 1 detection, it should make you leery of how much you trust your current antivirus or how much you trust your own behavior on your computer. I talk to a lot of people who say things like, well, I don't get infections. I know what to click on. And then they scan this, they go, well, it only found 1 thing. Well, obviously that was 1 more thing than you knew you had. So maybe you need to be a little less confident. And if it comes up at 0, great, keep doing what you're doing, but you should still do this at least once every 6 months just to verify that you haven't slipped. Everybody makes mistakes. So it doesn't matter to me, if you want to have your computer with stuff on it and be ignorant of it and convince yourself that you're doing a good job, good for you. I make no money on it's a free program. There's no money to be made here. So if you want to run it, I suggest you run it. If you don't, then don't. But it's frustrating when people will leave comments that they don't need it or, they're smarter than that. Or, well, good for you. Good for you. For the rest of us who realize that, it's what we don't know, that's the most dangerous thing, this will tell you or verify if, in fact, what you know is true or not. So it's always good to get that second opinion. And like I said, if it comes up with a number of infections, you might want to question either the way you're using the computer or maybe even change out your antivirus protection altogether. Again, I'm not responsible for your computer. It makes no difference to me what you choose to do. I can only offer you the advice that I would give a paying customer. And you may choose to accept it or you may choose not to. And you don't need to leave a comment as to whether or not you agree, because I don't care. It makes no impact in my life one way or the other. It's a little frustrating sometimes when you're trying to help somebody and they refuse the help. And they want to make it clear to you why they're refusing. It's like, look, I don't care. If you don't want it, don't take it. Get out of the line and let the person behind you have a turn. So it's an interesting, there's an interesting public behavior when you put yourself out there in the public like I do. People just everything's a competition for a lot of people, They'll insult what you do, they'll criticize what you do when they've done nothing themselves. So I have no interest in that. I like to hear back from people that say, hey, this was helpful, I appreciate it, or this helped, or thank you. But anything that's not constructive or helpful to the community is pointless. There's, like I say, it's not a competition. We're not competing over who's smarter or who's better. I'm just simply showing you how I do things, and it's weird that someone would voluntarily click on something and then complain about it. But that's the world we live in, and I just want you guys to be aware of it. It can be discouraging as a YouTube creator to have to deal with that, and if you don't believe me, I suggest you make your own YouTube videos, and then you and I can go have a beer somewhere and share complaining. The good news is the vast majority of viewers are actually very grateful and kind and supportive. It's just a shame that you've got to have that group of them that want attention. I'm surprised this hasn't gone up anymore. We're still at 19. We're still doing a lot of scans here. I mean, we're not done scanning. We're close, though. I mean, we're at 88%. So we're getting near being finished. But I imagine that 19 are pretty significant. And I don't recommend you ever cancel, like, okay, that's not going to find anymore, let's just cancel and move on. Your impatience will be your undoing. This could jump to over 1,000 between now and the time it finishes. It's very important you let it finish before, don't just cancel it and go, okay, well, that'll at least get rid of 19 of them and I'll go back a later date. Most people don't go back a later date. They're too impatient. So don't do this if you're busy. Do it, if it's your own computer, do it late at night and go to bed if it's going to take a while to scan. If you've got, like a 6 terabyte hard drive that's 95% full, it's going to take a while to scan. And if you're an impatient person, go watch TV, go read a book, go play a game, go do something else. Staring here, watching it in a video I'm doing this for educational purpose. I would normally not sit here and be staring at this. I would be off working on another computer or doing something else. And this computer will wait for you when it's done. You can let this run overnight. It'll sit for hours and hours. It'll sit for days. The computer's the most patient thing in the world. It will wait for you. You do not have to click the button as soon as it's done. Be patient. And again, keep that in mind when people wonder why on-site service is so expensive or why people don't like to do on-site service. It's really a waste of money for the customer, because if the technician's billing you by the hour, what are you paying for? You're paying for the technician to just stare at the wall and wait for this to finish. There's nothing else I can do to this computer until this process is done. And if I'm being, if I'm being clocked under a stopwatch, I can't be as thorough. I have to be faster at getting the job done within a certain time limit to keep the price below a certain amount for the customer. And that means I'm not going to be able to really optimize and tune up the system when I'm done, which means the job isn't going to be as good. So by taking it off-site, I can charge a flat rate. And then while computers are doing things like Windows updates take a while, virus scans take a while, all these things can run while I'm doing something else. There are businesses where obviously you can't do that, but for residential customers, there's no reason to be working on site at a residential home. You've got to solve a Wi-Fi problem or something like that, but you need to make sure the computer's working before you start diagnosing Wi-Fi problems. It may be a computer problem. So we're getting there, 99%, almost done. There we go. So they just want you to know that you can buy this program. Ultimately found 19, so I was way off. I thought it would find more than 70. In situations like this, I am happy to be wrong. And we're going to just delete everything that it's checked by default. You can quarantine it. The idea of quarantining it is that at some point you can come back in the future if there's ever a virus removal of that application or data. But this is all junk. Customer doesn't need any of it, and we're just going to delete it. It says, are you sure? Boom, it's done. These things can't be removed until the computer's restarted. So when I click OK, the computer restarts. And upon the restart process, before Windows loads, or as Windows is loading, but before the desktop loads, the Emsisoft program will delete those things it couldn't delete before because they were running in the background. And then the computer should be free of spyware at that point. So this restart will take a bit longer than a normal restart because of that process. Once again, patience is key. So that was everything that was removed from Emsisoft. These were the things it couldn't take out before. You'll see it's all related to Slimware utilities. And while Slimware is free and it's safe, you can see that it's still spying on you. Like anything else that's free, you are the product on anything that's free. Even the Emsisoft program, maybe I've seen it in situations where it's difficult to delete that EEK directory. It's not like a big deal, but it's just one of those situations where it's like, why would this, it's like a sys file sometimes that continues to run even though I've stopped running the program. And I only see it happen on some systems. It doesn't do it consistently for me. So now we have a nice clean desktop. Hopefully we won't see any more of those pop-ups. All that should be gone. Now things I can do to tune it up would be, I could run CCleaner on here, even though the modern version of Windows 10 doesn't really need it. If it's a computer I've never seen before, it's good to give it a good thorough cleaning with CCleaner before I give it back to the customer and let Windows 10 maintain it from that point forward. We're still, apparently this is not detected, which is disappointing to me. I'm not exactly sure what this KN Center is and why it's so difficult to remove. I might use Revo uninstaller to get rid of this. I am disappointed that Emsisoft didn't detect it and remove it unless it thinks that it's legit. It doesn't seem legit to me. The proxy check error, I think, is related to this. I think these two go together. So I'm going to close that. And I want to check for updates. Still not. I'm clicking and nothing's happening. So the computer is still loading something with the desktop. That KN Center really slowed us down. So I'm just let that sit there for a minute. Still not. I'm still seeing the hard drive activity light going crazy, so it's doing something. No idea what it's doing though. Oh, no, this came back again. So Emsisoft wasn't the one-stop shop I was hoping it would be. Once again, something you're only going to learn in real-world experience. Simulating stuff like this is almost impossible. So before I go any further, let me check in with the chat and see what you guys have been talking about. Let me flip this around. Let's see. Let's move this. Nice tangle going on here. I'm just going to let this continue to load and do what it wants to do rather than just staring at it because I am too impatient to wait for that. And it's been a while since I've checked in. So let's get this plugged in. Let's plug this in. All right. Maybe go into safe mode and delete KN Center. That's a suggestion from MyRun72 in the chat. Absolutely. Combo fakes. Oh, I see Brytech has joined us. Hey, Brian. Brian should be a moderator. Check your startup list. That's a very good idea. In fact, going into the simple things first, right? Looking at the startup folder or just msconfig to see where KN Center is starting, preventing it from starting. Alex has given me an update. All is clear. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for doing a good job. I will keep you on as moderator, so in the future, you will maintain that. I really appreciate you helping me out. What do we have? Yeah, I see John Huckabee's in the chat room. Last I heard, ComboFix did not work in Windows 10. I haven't run ComboFix in a very long time, so I haven't verified that or not. Isaac says, I want to be a moderator. Isaac, just keep hanging out in the chat room so I get to know you, so you're familiar to me. And then when there gets to be a time when I go live, because these are not scheduled, sometimes like today, moderators weren't available. It's always good to have more moderators, trusted moderators. Carey, try installing Glasswire firewall for the customer. I don't know what that is, and I'm not going to make my customer a guinea pig. I appreciate the recommendation, but until I'm familiar with the product and how dangerous the product might be, like an example was Zone Alarm. I had so many customers installing Zone Alarm a few years ago that they were locking themselves out of their own computer, and then they would call tech support, why doesn't my email work? And tech support was, I don't know, you've got to reinstall Windows. And oh, what a nightmare, what a nightmare. So for people that are technically competent, I'd go, yeah, Zone Alarm's good. But for people who aren't, Zone Alarm was the worst thing to put on their machine. People ask if I use Hiren's boot CD. I haven't used any boot CDs in a couple of years. I just don't have any need for them. Is this computer running Windows 8 or 10? It certainly looks like 10 from everything I've seen. It doesn't look like 8 to me, but I haven't verified it. Carey, have you ever created a virus and sent it to people? Why would I do that? Better things to do with my time. You could create a new profile on the computer and run a virus scan that way. Absolutely, that is another great suggestion. However, when you create a new profile, even after you remove it, it still leaves your profile in the user's folder. And that can confuse some users when they go digging around in their hard drives. Probably an 81-year-old lady isn't going to dig around in there, but I think there's better solutions than that. But that's viable. I mean, that's one of the things I really like about being a tech, is there's a lot of different ways you can go about resolving a problem. And none of those ways are necessarily wrong. Some are more efficient than others. Ultimately, I kind of stick with what I'm comfortable with, and that would sort of be like a last-ditch thing. I've seen user profiles that are corrupted, and the only way you can fix it is by creating a whole new user profile and moving all their stuff over. Glasswire is real. Barnacles uses it. I have no doubt that Glasswire is real. My concern is we're dealing with an end user who doesn't even know what a mouse is called. So the last thing I want to do is give them an application that asks them, do you want to give this permission, yes or no, like Zone Alarm would do. And they don't know whether or not to say yes or no, and they end up locking themselves out of their own computer. So because Windows has a built-in firewall, it does a great job. And Windows Defender does a great job with antivirus, but the problem is malware. And 97% of the infections that are occurring on computers today are considered malware, not viruses. And that's ultimately what this lady has a problem with, and most end users have a problem with. So we're looking for a solution we can put on there that sort of takes care of itself, like Malwarebytes it'll automatically update itself, it'll automatically scan, and if it comes up with something, the lady's not going to know what to do. She won't know that it's real or fake. And I'll have to instruct her to call me, and I will put TeamViewer on her computer before I bring it back because she lives so far away. I'll be able to log in remotely that instant and be able to click the button for her on those rare occasions when that occurs. But I'm not going to do that with a firewall. Every time a firewall pops up yes or no, she'll be calling me every 5 minutes. But I'll definitely look into Glasswire. I've never heard of it before. It may be wonderful, but without any personal experience with it, I'm not going to install it on a customer's computer and make them my guinea pig. I won't do that. Carey, are there any comments on AMD Threadripper? AMD Threadripper, I just saw a great video over at PC World where they did an unboxing. And it's got the same kind of install as an Intel CPU, where the pins are in the socket now. It's got like 4,094 pins, and it comes with a torque wrench. They want you to actually torque down these with an Intel, you push the socket down and lock it down. On this one, you've got to screw down 3 screws to a certain torque setting. So they're all including a torque wrench, a Torx torque wrench. The Threadripper CPU is going to be great for people that are doing CAD work or video editing, multi-thread applications. If you're not running multi-thread applications like you're a gamer, it'd do you no good at all, just a waste of your money. So for the right user, it's a great chip. But for most people, it'll be a waste of money because they're barely using 2 to 4 threads now. So to have more than that is just wasting your money. Yes, Carey, Skype, drunk, Brytech. I don't even know what that means. Brian says to Skype him. Technology Nerd says, goodbye. Hey, Technology Nerd, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a moderator. Appreciate your help and look forward to seeing you again. Threadripper looks so cool. Never seen a CPU like that before. Yeah, well, CPUs used to be big like that. The original Pentium chip I've got is about yay big. So again, if you're younger or you're just into computers, this may seem new. If you're older like me and you've been around a while, this is just reflections of the past coming around again. I'm not impressed by the size of it. Interestingly, it uses less power than the Intel chip, which is a lot smaller. But like I say, PC World has a great video. Gordon Ma-ung, who used to be the editor-in-chief of Maximum PC, works for PC World now. I think Gordon's a great guy. I really like Gordon a lot. And he makes really fun videos with PC World. And you should definitely check out the video at PC World of the unboxing of the Ryzen. And then he actually installs it. He doesn't read any instructions, and you can see him figuring it out. And he actually does it wrong a couple of times. I love that genuineness of making a video like that, where he's showing, look, I am a quote-unquote expert who was an editor-in-chief of a major technical publication, and even I struggle to figure out how this thing goes in. But with a little trial and error, he figured it out without reading any instructions, and because of that, I highly recommend the video. It's very authentic. Yeah, John was talking about how Gordon torqued down one of the screws because the instructions say to tighten the screws in a certain order. So he tightened down the first one, then the other two wouldn't tighten because he pushed, when the screw was tightened all the way down, the two screws wouldn't reach down into the threads to even begin to tighten. So he had to unscrew it and then start the screw and then start the other two, then tighten them. So yeah, that's real. So a couple of things I'll do on this computer just to check it will be to run Crystal Disk Info, make sure the hard drive is healthy. It is a mechanical drive, so if the drive is not healthy, I'll recommend replacement to the customer. I will probably run Crystal Disk Mark to get an idea of the data transfer rate. That sometimes can indicate a problem or at least explain why the computer is running at the speed it's running at. I will, like I said, run CCleaner on it and clean all the temp files. I'll also right-click on the C drive and go to the disk cleanup portion and then clean up system files. That takes a few minutes to run. I'll clean up there, clean up all the old restore points so the customer doesn't put the virus back on or the spyware back on. Always clean the previous restore points, and then I'll create a new restore point called Carey. And that's the only one, that's the oldest one the customer will be able to go back to in the future, so they can't undo all the time and effort I put into this machine by trying to save money and do it themselves and end up putting the machine right back in the same condition. I'll defragment the drive, even though Windows does that automatically. It's just one more step. Put on Malwarebytes, let it scan, and I'll put on TeamViewer and make sure she's added to my TeamViewer list. And Windows Update, I will revisit that and make sure that Windows is currently up to date. So I'm looking in chat right now, just, hey Carey, what do you do if motherboard securing screw is stuck? Well, you're going to have to use your own judgment on that one. When screws get stripped out and they're difficult to remove and it's something that holds the motherboard in, you can buy special screwdrivers that are designed for stripped threads. There's tools for everything. It helps to have the right tools. If you don't have the right tools, there may be nothing you can do. Someone says Windows 10 has a weird instance of update management. If your computer's a bit older, then sometimes you won't get the latest updates. I've been around technology long enough to not trust it, so I always check updates manually regardless of the age of the computer. I like to see it with my own eyes that everything's current and up to date. Opinions on HDMI versus DisplayPort. There's nothing I do that requires HDMI or DisplayPort, so I don't really have any opinions on that. There's nothing I've ever done where I needed to have DisplayPort. However, it is the current standard. You're going to have more DisplayPort ports on your recent video card that you purchased than any other kind. So just for the sake of compatibility to plug everything in, you might need it. Chrome or Firefox? I prefer Chrome. That warning box is a protected driver that is locked against removal. Yeah, it probably is, but I'm still going to remove it. Just because it didn't remove the first time doesn't mean it can't be. I only want to work as hard as I have to. So by going into the add remove programs and removing things that way first is easier than removing it manually. And then running the Emsisoft Emergency Kit is easier than going through and removing things manually. Look, I can bring up sysinternals and I can go through every DLL file and I can do it all manually because I know what belongs and what doesn't belong. But that's difficult to teach and it's kind of sloppy. It's not my preference, but I'll do it if I have to. Like if I run out of options, I will go in there and I will do it old school. So, Carey, can you lock her profile down once you've cleaned the PC so she can't install this sort of stuff? Well, here's what happens when you do that. She's not a regular customer. She's only the first time I've ever worked on her computer. We just met. If I lock her out and she gets a new printer, she's not going to be able to install it. That's going to be a support call to me. Am I going to charge her for that? I mean, it's my time. She may not feel that she should have to pay it because she didn't ask me to do that. So there may be legitimate things she wants to install it, she won't be able to. Opera is better than Chrome and Firefox. It depends what you're doing. I really like Opera a lot. Opera will automatically VPN for you and default to secure versions of the sites like the HTTPS. Opera is definitely a quality underdog in the browser game and it's worth checking out. What I find interesting is there's a if you run Windows XP, which you shouldn't be, your Internet Explorer doesn't work. Google Chrome, a lot of sites won't work on that anymore. But if you install Opera on XP, all those sites will work. Sites like LinkedIn won't come up anymore on Chrome or Explorer in Windows XP, but it'll come up in Opera. And there's a lot of sites like that. I shouldn't even be giving you this information because you shouldn't be using XP, but it's your identity, and if you want it stolen, what do I care? Carey, I wish I could send you pictures of my new build. You can certainly send pictures of your build. There's a Facebook fan page. Carey Holzman's YouTube Facebook fan page is literally what it's called. And you can send a private message or post a public message. I prefer you send a private message to the moderators there and include photos or short videos that you can take with your smartphone of your build. And it helps that we have good lighting that we can see if you've plugged something in wrong or you forgot to plug something in. We're more than happy to help you and we love to see your build. And if you've succeeded at building, we'd love for you to come onto the Facebook fan page and share that because you're inspiring others. What do you think of the Chrome remote desktop add-on? I have tried to use it and couldn't figure it out, and I looked at a few YouTube videos and I said this is far too complicated, and I went back to TeamViewer. Sometimes it's easier to stick with what you know than to learn something new. It just didn't matter that much to me to try and figure it out. It was not intuitive to me. I see we have Olusu, who is the moderator of the Facebook fan page, and he should be a moderator here as well. So let's make sure that he has that status. John Huckabee, who's one of the moderators here, has some live builds. He's got, I believe he's got a Ryzen build, and he's got another one that he's doing and definitely can check out his videos. They're on my personal Facebook page, and I think I put them on the fan page as well. My personal Facebook page is private, so you have to send me a friend request, because not everything I do on my personal Facebook page has to do with computers. Some of it has to do with just me sharing pictures of my family, or talking about a movie I saw, or a song that I heard that I can't get out of my head. So it's much more personal. I try to avoid political stuff, but every once in a while I do post stuff that's considered political, and some people get offended by that, and it's like, well, that's what my private page is for. If you don't want to see that stuff, stay to the fan page where you won't have to deal with that. But pretty much anybody who sends me a friend request on my private Facebook page, I'll approve you. It's just I don't want to be spied on by people who don't like me. Having a problem with a Windows 7 LAN driver when it looks for the Ethernet controller, it says something about sleep mode. So if you want help with a problem, it is beneficial to say word for word what the error message is. Write it down or take a picture of it with your phone where it's in focus. Then go to the Facebook fan page. Carey Holzman's YouTube Facebook fan page is the full name. Post the photo with your question, or put the exact error message word for word in quotes, and what you're doing for that error message. Like when I click on this specific icon, or if I right click and go to tell us exactly what you're doing. We have to know what version of Windows. Windows 7 Home, Pro, 32-bit or 64-bit. When did the problem start? If you think that's too much work, we can't help you. So, but you know, the more specific you are with your question, the more specific anybody who's offering to help will be able to help you. WebRoot is very good. Yeah, I'm not a fan of WebRoot, but it's not terrible. Alusu's just put a link to the Facebook fan page. So it's www.facebook.com/CareyHolzman fan page. It's all one word, no spaces, all lowercase. Carey, what do you suggest to study in college in your business? I suggest you get a degree in business administration if you're going to be self-employed or you plan on ever being self-employed. And then, of course, you would get a degree in IT depending on what part of IT you want to get into. It's network infrastructure, network architecture, database management, desktop support. The list goes on and on and on. Website development, server, goes on and on. Have you ever had a computer that crashes when you reboot Windows? Yes, and in most cases, the fastest, simplest fix is to simply reinstall Windows. A lot of problems that can be fixed require, problems like that require a certain investment of time, and you've got to make that judgment call. Which is faster? Which is going to be a more guaranteed fix? So clean install is always the best way to start on an unknown problem. And you don't necessarily have to wipe out a hard drive. You can go get a spare hard drive and unplug the main drive, plug in the spare one, and install Windows on the spare one and see if that fixes the problem. If it doesn't, you've got a hardware problem to hunt down. But if it does, then you can transfer all the data you need off the old drive onto the new one and then clone it back over. You're right back in business again. But again, it depends how much time you want to invest in it. Carey, has there ever been a repair that you were unable to fix? There's no such thing. No. There have been repairs that would cost more money than the customer's willing to spend. Let's say, for example, they've got a bad CPU, but we can't get that CPU anymore. Or I'll tell you, a common one is a bad motherboard in like a Dell or an HP or other proprietary system, where it's a few years old, you can't get the board except on eBay. It's always going to be a used board, so it can't really guarantee it. I can't tell you when it's going to arrive in the mail. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be coming from China. And then when you tack on the price of what the part cost on top of the price of the labor, the customer goes, I could buy a new computer for that much and get it right now and not have to wait and then worry if it's going to break again. I'll have a whole new warranty. You go, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I would do. So I button it up and give it back to the customer. And in those cases, I don't charge the customers if I don't do the repair. Even though I could have done the repair, I would rather see the customer take that money and apply it towards a new computer and then call me in the future or refer me to friends and family. That's the best marketing that there is. Carey, I have a problem with RAM sticks. I think it's because they're two different RAMs. Yeah, two different brands. Yeah, well, some motherboards don't like different brands. So you best to stick with one brand. If you want to have the total amount of memory that both brands add up to, get rid of both brands and buy a whole new matched set. Problems go away. Nothing else you can do about that. There's just certain incompatibilities that exist between certain brands of RAM and motherboards, and certain combinations therein. Far too many that I could possibly list if I even knew them all. Some problems like that are not something that you can do anything about other than replace the RAM or replace the motherboard. Always cheaper and faster to replace the RAM. Carey, is a GT5098E worth replacing parts or building a new PC? I have no idea. Depends on how you use the computer and what you think is. So when somebody says, is this worth, what something's worth to me and what something's worth to you are two entirely different things. That's why they're auctions, right? An auction sells for what the person who thought it was valued at the most pays for it. All right, let me get back to what's going on this computer now that I've caught up in the chat. Admins are doing a great job. Again, thank you to the admins for maintaining civility in the chat room. Carey, would you use an AMD Ryzen CPU in a system build? I will build whatever a customer wants me to build. So if a customer orders a Ryzen, I will build a Ryzen. Until that happens, all you see. Again, I am not Linus Tech Tips. I am not one of these other YouTubers that make YouTube videos for a living. I'm a real working computer technician, and I have accountability, liability, and responsibility to the machines I fix. When I return them back to the customers pay me, and then the customers will call me if other problems develop or I haven't solved it. That doesn't happen to other YouTubers, not that I'm aware of. Guys like Jay's 2 Cents and Linus, they just make videos for money, and they don't have any accountability. So this is the real world, and what you see is real. When a customer orders a Ryzen or a Threadripper or an i9, that's what you'll see me build. If you want to see something, order it from me. If you're like, well, I don't have any money, well, where do you think I get the parts from? I can't accept parts from sponsors and be honest. It's not possible. The sponsors, it's my job to find something wrong, at least one thing, and probably many things. Sponsors don't want to hear any of that. And the minute you do it, they will probably not be a sponsor anymore. So for me to remain genuine and authentic, to be able to tell you exactly what's going on honestly, I have to be independent. And much like Consumer Reports Magazine doesn't accept any sponsorships or advertising, and they can be honest about their reviews. Even when they review like cars, they don't buy the car from one place. They send an anonymous employee to go buy a car from a different dealership every time. So the dealer has no idea that they're not selling to just an ordinary customer. So they're not getting a special car. They're not getting any special treatment. They're going through the exact experience you can expect if you go through that process. And that's what I do here on my channel. So what I tell people who have requests is to order from me and request that I make a video from your order, and I'll be happy to do that. That's how this business works. And the last thing I would want is for AMD to send me one of those big boxes and go, here's a Threadripper CPU and an acrylic paperweight with a Threadripper CPU in it with your name on. I don't need that. You know how stupid that's going to look in 10 years? They're going to be like, wow, that's really, really old. I mean, technology moves so fast. And then the reviewer goes, wow, this is so cool. I got to say nothing but nice things. I want to keep the free stuff coming in. You're not being honest anymore to your viewers. That's called, in my world, that's called being a sellout. I have no interest in that. When a customer orders a Threadripper, I'll build a Threadripper, and I'll be honest about the process. If I like it, if I don't like it, nothing will sort of weigh me to lean towards liking it or not liking it other than my honest experience. And it's so rare to find that today. So I really believe that's what my YouTube channel does differently. And I'm sure there's got to be at least another channel out here like this, but I haven't found it. I mentioned this guy Barnacles, Nerdgasm is his name. His name's Jerry. He's very honest, and he covers a lot of things like I do, everything from personal issues with his trying to lose weight and his frustrations in that, to dealing with privacy issues in Windows 10, to reviewing a hot tub. I mean, he's all over the map. But he's genuine and he's honest, and nothing motivates him like a sponsorship. You know, he's motivated through similar to me, very similar to me. And that's the only other YouTuber I know in the tech industry making videos that has the same sort of agenda that I do, where the money doesn't matter. All that matters is the truth, or at least the way we see it. So if you know other YouTubers, tech YouTubers that are doing something similar to me, I'd love to see another working technician showing the jobs that he's doing and sharing his knowledge, or her knowledge. It doesn't have to be a he. I haven't seen it. Barney is Jay's friend. Okay. What is my opinion on Corsair or Velvet power supply bags? I think I've made that pretty clear. I'd much rather not have the Velvet bag and you can take 5 cents off the price of the power supply. I'd rather have the 5 cents. I have no use for that Velvet bag. Buy a punching bag. That will help you lose weight. Carey, is your business private or can anybody hire you? My business is private. The business I get generally comes from referrals from customers I already have, or system bills where people reach out to me from other states. Like normally, before I did the YouTube thing, I didn't work on computers in other states. And in my attempt to educate the world and show how easy it is to build your own computer, how rewarding it is, a lot of people have said, you know, I don't have time to do it, but I have a lot of confidence by watching you that you know what you're doing. I'd like you to build mine. So I do it for those folks. And so basically anybody can hire me. You need to, every job I do is going to be $125. So you would buy your own parts. We discussed that in the case of a computer build. In the case of a repair, it doesn't really make any sense to repair anybody's computer out of state, because to ship the computer to me is about $100, and then for me to ship it back is about $100. When you add $125 for the labor, you're at $325. That's half the price of a new decent computer. It doesn't really make any sense for me to do that. But if you're looking to have a computer built, or if you're local to the metropolitan Phoenix area, you can send me a message through YouTube and know that it's going to cost you, you know, basically $125. So obviously I'm not getting rich from that. I think it's a very fair price. A job like this, which takes hours and hours and hours, it wouldn't make sense to bill hourly. It would go beyond the value of the machine. So it's just what I find is fair. Regardless, you know, somebody says they live in California. Shipping a computer from California is usually between $50 and $80. Remember, it's got to ship both ways. It just generally doesn't make financial sense. It's very difficult for me to offer any support to somebody out of state, and it's something, it's a condition that anybody asks me to build a computer has to accept that, you know, when I ship this to you, I'm going to be very limited in how I can help you if you have any problems down the line. So all the parts you order are ordered in your name. You go shop wherever you want for the parts. I don't make any money from the parts. Just as if you built it yourself, if you encounter problems, I'll obviously do my best to help you through email or a phone call. I mean, you are a customer and I appreciate your business, but some problems I just have to see. But everything I build, it can be worked on by anybody who knows what they're doing. There's not like, you know, proprietary stuff like HP and Dell. Anybody can work on computers that I build. And I want customers to come back to me because they want to, not because they have to. All right, I want to get back to fixing this computer, guys. So let me bring this back around again. Let's see, I need to unplug from here. And I'm hoping now that the computer's had some time to sit idle while I've chatted with you folks, that it'll be a bit more responsive now than it was prior. Let's bring that back around so you guys can see it. And I need my keyboard and mouse dongle. I think I'll plug it in the front this time. Looks like it's gone to sleep on me. I see the power lights blinking on and off. It's not waking up. And it may not be waking up because I didn't plug the keyboard mouse dongle back in the same place. It may not detect it when it's in sleep mode. And this is another thing I don't like about sleep mode, especially when you're working on a computer, when you can't wake it back up. Come on now. This is frustrating. I'll just tap the power button, see if that wakes it up. Then once it's woken up, when you take a USB plug out and you plug it into a different USB port, the Windows has to auto-detect it again and reload the drivers. It's obviously not going to do that while it's in sleep mode. And this should auto-switch, but I'm going to manually set it to VGA. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go, let's see, what version of Windows are we running here? Not clicking. And again, if you don't have a laptop, it just doesn't make sense to be using sleep mode. Let me just cancel that. It's not going to still let me do it. Okay. Go back to Task Manager. It looks like it says version updater 32-bit. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's real or fake. Acer Portal. Oh, that's interesting. That whole box went away. Very enlightening right there. Now can I click on things? No, still not. Still not coming up. So we still have an infection going on here. So what I'm going to do is power this machine off. Just by hitting the power button, it's going to go through the power shutdown settings. And then let's see if we can bring this up in safe mode. We may not be able to the traditional way because it's Windows, I think it's Windows 10. Not positive. I'm going to find out here in a minute though. Still going through the power down cycle. That's a particularly nasty piece of spyware that she's got. It's amazing. I couldn't have done that if I tried. But put it in the hands of somebody really young or really old and they can do amazing things. And they have no idea how they did it. And I have no idea how they did it. Yeah, so that's not gonna let me in safe mode that way. The rotation of that dial certainly looks like Windows 10 to me. Here we go. First thing I want to do is go back in my control panel. Let's go to System. You guys can see everything okay? And take it back. Let me close that. Let's just go to System. information. Yeah, this is Windows 10 Home. It's build 14393. I don't know if that's the latest or not. It does show it's an x64 based system. It's an Intel Celeron, which runs at 2.41 gigahertz. Apparently up to 2408. It's got 2 cores. UEFI BIOS. 4 gigs of RAM is installed, and the video is using 0.12 of that. So all that looks pretty good. It's not what I really wanted to bring up, though. This, I just don't know what this KN Center is. And proxy check. KN Center and proxy check. Still throwing me off. We can look at msconfig. See what's starting with the computer. It's already got selective startup. That's interesting. So somebody has done this before. Normally when I've cleaned it up, I'll go in the registry and permanently remove those so it goes back to normal startup. But that's me. I like to clean up after myself. To manage startup items, use the startup section of the task manager. So I forgot about that. I forgot the task manager does that in Windows 10. So the Acer portal, anonymous gadget. I don't know what anonymous gadget is. There's instant support. We definitely want to disable instant support. I want to disable the anonymizer gadget. Anything I don't recognize, I want to disable. This IdBit launcher, whatever that is, disable that. So now we've got Microsoft OneDrive, Logitech Download Support Assistant. Let's disable that. It's not really necessary. Here we've got Windows Defender and Realtek are about the only things left. Everything else is disabled. Oh, the Acer portal. We can leave that enabled. And then let's close, cancel, and then let's restart again. And hopefully we won't see that stuff pop up this time. And let me give you a close-up of the screen like I did before so you guys get a better idea what's going on here. Let's see, go that way. There we go. That's pretty good right there. Just lower it a little bit more. There we go. Yeah, explore beyond limits. Yeah, beyond the limits of control. This is what's often referred to as losing control of your computer. And that's what customers feel. They feel like they've lost control of it. They can't. The computer won't do what they're telling it to do anymore. And what we're doing is we're restoring control back to the computer. The spyware has taken control of the computer and limits what you can do or cannot do within Windows, such as the removal process. This computer wouldn't be bad if it had 8 gigs of RAM and a solid state drive in it. It would actually be quite an improvement, but it would probably cost nearly as much as the whole system cost when it was purchased. Well, at least half as much anyway. All right, now hopefully when this comes up, we're not going to see that junk anymore. So let me go back to the control panel. And let's look for the system properties in here. I know it's in here somewhere. I really like the old control panel so much better. System. That's what I wanted to see. All right, 64-bit, Intel Celeron. Windows is activated. Device manager should look good. Yep, everything looks good in there. I'm going to go to System Protection. And I want to delete all the system restore points. So we're going to first drive C, we're going to configure. And delete, continue. Perfect. I'll make a new restore point right here, and we're just going to call it Carey. So I know that that's a clean restore point, although I'm not done yet. It's at least clean to this point. This just takes a minute. One of the other things I do from Windows 7 and beyond is Windows likes to blue screen and then restart the computer, and you cannot read what the error message is. So by default, it has an automatic restart on error, and I turn that off. I want the blue screen to just stay until the customer resets the computer so that they can read the error message to me. Telling me I've got a blue screen, how do I fix it? I cannot tell you. Nobody can tell you how to fix it. You need to read word for word what the error message is. Then and only then can an attempt to fix be made. At least one that would be reasonably likely to cure it. So while that's creating a restore point, I'm going to go ahead and open Chrome. I'm going to check to make sure we have the latest Chrome installed, and the way you're going to do that, although you can trust Chrome to update itself, you can force it to check by clicking on the settings up here and going to Help and About Google Chrome, and this box will open up and it will check to see if you're running the latest version. Checking. See, it's updating. An error occurred while checking. One of the ways you can get around that would be to simply download Chrome again, because when you download it, you're only going to get the new version. You can always try the download again, but chances are, if it fails once, it's going to fail again. I'm going to go to CCleaner. I don't really run CCleaner much these days. Like I say, Windows 10 really makes it redundant. However, on a machine like this, where it originally had Windows 8, I don't know what sort of temp files may exist that Windows 10's cleanup won't detect. So I just want the free version. I'll hit, actually, I'm not going to follow this. I go all the way to the bottom of the page, and you'll see that there's builds right down here. And I'll click on the builds link, and I'm looking for the portable version, which is kind of hidden. Not sure why the screen just blanked out. So there's the installer, there's the portable, and the slim version. I like the slim or the portable. The slim version doesn't have any tools, add-on stuff. What do you call it? Bundled. It's just plain. It's a smaller download. It's cleaner. But a program like this you shouldn't be installing, in my opinion. You should only be using a portable version, and you should always be using the latest version. Every month a new version comes out, and when you install it, it encourages you to use an outdated version, which could potentially harm your machine. Okay, restore point was made successfully, and then I want to go under Advanced, and then under Startup and Recovery I hit Settings and uncheck Automatically Restart. Click OK, click OK. There's our zip file we just downloaded, so let's open the folder. That's our download folder. We should see CCleaner in here. At some point somebody downloaded it a couple versions ago, which is frightening. And I am going to extract this folder. Extract all. It'll just name the folder the same as the file name. And while that's happening, I can close the browser. Don't need that open. Don't need Windows settings open anymore. I don't need the system open. Keep my desktop nice and clean. This is a simple extraction, and look how long it's taking. The hard drive is just going crazy. So people buy cheap computers, and this is what they get. You really do get what you pay for in the industry. It drives me crazy as a computer tech to sit there and wait and wait and wait. I want the 64-bit version because we're running a 64-bit version of Windows, so we're running there's two versions of CCleaner here. There's the 32 and the 64. Let's close that. And any minute now it should start. Any minute now it should start. Here we go. Okay, I can close that now. I don't even recognize this. What is this? Brought up email for some reason. Closing that. Why is it bringing up the inbox 3 times? That's really weird. Let's go back. Oh. Again, I don't know why that happened. And then I'm going to hit the Analyze button right down here. No idea why her inbox opened. So when you're dealing with a person who's not computer literate, which is most computer users, generally the cleanups are not that difficult, generally. When you're dealing with somebody who's a self-proclaimed computer expert and they're calling you for help, their computers are the worst ones to fix. They're the ones who got themselves in so much trouble they made the problem 10 times worse before they called you. And usually the best answer to save everybody time and save everybody money is to just go, look, man, you know so much about computers, you got yourself in over your head, do a wipe and a reinstall. And a lot of times they say, well, I don't have copies of the programs, I have copies of my data. Well, then they really don't know as much as they think they know, because if they really did know that much, they would have copies of the programs or their install codes, and they would have their data backed up. So that's where you get what's called I know enough to be dangerous status, and those are the worst customers to have. They generally want to spend the least amount of money. They know what you do. They know you're going to be clicking the mouse and pushing key buttons and keyboard buttons, and that's not worth $125 to them because they could do that themselves. And I tell them, then do it yourself. And they go, well, I tried, I can't. Well, then don't tell me I'm charging too much. You go around in a circle. The worst customers, generally speaking, there are always exceptions to the rule. So you really, you know, these folks that are not computer literate, that's why you don't tease them, make fun of them, or, you know, those are your bread and butter as a technician. Without them, you wouldn't have a job. Because quite frankly, if all you were doing was dealing with people that were self-proclaimed, you know, computer techs that got themselves in over their head and now they're looking for a little help, that's usually not a customer that comes back to you anytime soon. Because again, they're going to try and continue to fix everything on their own. No differently than you know, somebody that fixes their own cars, going to a dealership and the dealer wants to charge all this money. And then they're like, I could do that myself for half the price. Well, then do it yourself. So looks like almost a gig is going to be removed. So I'm just going to hit Run Cleaner, click OK, and just let it clean everything it finds. Now, whether or not you choose to clean the registry, you never need to clean the registry. It makes people feel good psychologically, but it actually has no impact on Windows whatsoever unless it damages the registry, in which case it has a negative impact on Windows. So why do people do it? People take the risk because it makes them feel good. They go, oh, it says my registry's clean now. And it's like a placebo. It makes them feel like, oh, my system's faster. It's never going to be, ever since Windows 7, cleaning the registry will have no impact on the performance of the machine. And quite frankly, cleaning out the temp files won't have much impact on the PC unless you're running out of hard drive space, in which case it can have a huge impact. I've seen solid state drives like the 120 gig solid state drives that just get filled with temp files. I've demonstrated that in other videos. I've shown some screenshots where there was 70 gigs of temp files on a 120 gig drive, and it had only like 100 megs of free space, and Windows kept crashing. And I had to run CCleaner to clean that space up. And then all of a sudden, more than 50% of the drive is available, and Windows 7 runs great again. It's a problem I've seen specifically with Windows 7 in small solid-state drives. Now, remember, solid-state drives have only recently become relatively affordable. So these folks that have the 120 gigs are what I would call early adopters to solid-state drives. Not the earliest of adopters, but ones that probably paid, you know, $200 or $2 a gig for their 120 gig drive. And it works fine. They don't need more than that. They're only using 50% of the drive or less in most cases. So it's not like, hey, you should upgrade to a 250 because it's only $100. How about you just clean out the space of the temp files and stick with what you've got that's running fine? So that's cleaned up that space. I'm going to do the registry clean. I don't really have to. Like I say, there's really nothing much to be gained here other than peace of mind that it's clean now. And there's a risk that CCleaner could take something out that's critical. If this didn't have any spyware on it, I really wouldn't worry about it. It's just an added step that's completely unnecessary. It's finding only 118 things. I'll just fix all, click close, and scan it again. And this can be done up to 3 times. After the 3rd time, it should be completely clean. Each time it'll find less and less. A lot of people just do it once and think they're done. And that goes back to that whole placebo effect, right? It has to be done up to 3 times. So this time it's found 34 problems. And then we'll do it again. Hopefully it won't find any more. Well, it's finding 1, a Java plugin. And once again, I don't believe this will impact the performance of the computer in any way, shape, or form. It just makes you feel good. So, in most cases, it won't hurt anything, but you are risking damaging your registry. So there's 1 problem it found. We'll scan 1 more. This is the 4th scan. It should come up clean. If the same thing comes up, it can't be removed. You can keep removing it, and it'll just keep finding it over and over and over again. That's why I say you've got to run it up to 3 times. It never takes more than 3 times. You're just going to, if anything doesn't get removed after the 3rd time, it cannot be removed. So it's clean. Now, I'm going to reboot the computer again. Now that we've cleaned it, we'll do a restart. And everything is just step by step. And that thoroughness, whether we're scanning for viruses, scanning for malware, deleting temp files, resetting Google Chrome, we'll reset Internet Explorer. That's just faster than cleaning them, just reset them. Deleting the system restore files, checking Windows updates I still have to do. I can look for a new BIOS update for this. There may be one. I'll show you how I do that. It's real easy. And you know, people are still thinking it's 1995. Oh, BIOS updates are really scary. They're not. For the most part, you cannot update the BIOS with the wrong BIOS. The only risk is if you were to lose power while you're updating. This the house I'm in hasn't lost power in months. What are the odds it's going to happen now? You can always buy a battery backup or UPS if you're that paranoid. I mean, Murphy's Law is alive and well, right? If it's going to happen, it'll happen when you're updating the BIOS. But that's about the only way you can cause system damage is by interrupting the BIOS update. It used to be real easy to put the wrong BIOS update on a system, and then it ruins the motherboard. Makes the motherboard unbootable. You have to send it back to the manufacturer for repair or a new BIOS chip, if the BIOS chip is even replaceable. A lot of times they're not replaceable. They're just soldered in because the manufacturer has to spend more money for a socketable BIOS chip. They have to pay for the socket, and 99.9% of the customers will never need to send that BIOS chip in. So it ends up being a waste of money for the manufacturer and the customer both. Got a pretty good boot time there. Not too shabby. Trying to bring up Internet Explorer again here. I mean Google Chrome, not Internet Explorer. That looks good. I want to make sure that our search engine should be automatically set to Google. I just want to verify that. Sorry, I realize I'm blocking the camera here. Search engine is set to Google. That's good. Okay. So if I want to check the BIOS, I'm going to download a utility called CPU-Z. I'll just type it into the search bar. It'll default to Google. The first link that comes up is the CPU-Z website. I've been recommending this product for many, many years. It's free. And then you'll see there's the zip version in English. That's what I want. Again, I don't want to install any of these programs. I just want the portable version so I can execute them without leaving anything on the customer's system that either has to be uninstalled, and anything that has to be uninstalled leaves traces in the registry or files in the user directory. It's just messy. And if you forget to uninstall it, then the user finds it and they can get themselves in trouble. So here's the utility once again in our download folder. I'm going to delete the CCleaner I downloaded. Don't need that. Chrome setup can be deleted. And most likely everything in the downloads folder can be deleted. Most customers are completely unaware of what a downloads folder is. She's not using a lot of space in there, so I'm not too worried about it. But chances are, because I saw so many multiple downloads of the same thing, she doesn't know this folder exists or what it's for. So it's not like she's going to go, oh, where's this thing I used to have in my downloads folder, if I were to delete the contents. But I will do that like on solid state drives that are nearly full. The downloads folder needs to be cleared out, especially when you're dealing with a small capacity hard drive like that. So what CPU ID is going to do is it's going to give us all the details of the chip on this tab. That's the CPU tab. It tells us everything we want to know about our CPU. The caches, I never use that tab. It's useless to me. The main board is what I'm interested in. This tells us the version is P11-80, which is dated 4/28/2014. So if I want to see if there's a new version, I'm going to compare it to this, right? So generally, you would go to support.manufacturer.com. If it's an HP, it's support.hp.com. If it's a Dell, it's support.dell.com. It's probably support.acer.com, I'm going to guess. Let's see what happens. Yes, that worked. And we want American support, United States, right there. I like how they put it, South America and North America, all under America. Here it says enter a serial number or ID. That's great. You know, on Dells and HPs, you don't have to guess which model you have. You can just put the ID in, and that way you know the drivers and the BIOS is specifically for that machine. There's no guesswork. But again, there's no real risk either, because if it's the wrong BIOS or driver, it simply won't work. It won't destroy the machine or, you know, cause harm to the machine. So let me see if I can read the code. I'm looking on this computer somewhere. It should be a serial number, maybe on the side panel. Oh wait, on the inside of this front panel, there's a code here. I wonder if that's it, or if it may be on the side panel. On the side panel of the machine, if it's, you know, somewhere like on a sticker. Yeah, down here in the corner, there's a serial number. So that's good. I can hold it in my hand and type it in. And this is a long serial. Oh, there's an SNID that's only like 15 digits versus 35 digits or whatever. It's got a manufacturer's date right on here. It says it was manufactured on July 9th, 2014. The computer is in fact 3 years old, not 2 years old. And in the world of computers, that's a big difference. Okay, so let's put the serial number in. I have to block you guys, not because I don't want you to see the serial number, but I can't see the screen on the keyboard when I'm off to the side like that. Okay, so here it tells us our machine, and there are, right here under operating system, it does show Windows 10 64-bit is supported. Here's BIOS firmware updates. And you know, you get this warning, this is just boilerplate nonsense. It shows the latest version is P11-80. That's the latest one. These are older versions. So if I look back at CPUZ, I have what version? I have P11-80. So I have the latest version. Sometimes you can also tell from the date. This is dated 4/28/2014, and this is dated 5/13 or 5/15/2014. The reason that discrepancy exists, even though it's the same version number, it's within a couple of weeks. So that just verifies there is no new BIOS that is the latest, and that's good. A simple check like that. A lot of people say you shouldn't update the BIOS until you need to. I say you should update the BIOS before you need to. I'd rather avoid a problem than deal with a problem later. It is relatively risk-free. It's very difficult to do a BIOS update wrong these days. So there's really a lot of unnecessary fear. If you're not having any problems with your computer, I'm not suggesting you go and create a problem by updating your BIOS for no reason at all. But if you're doing a repair, a virus removal, something like that, in that process, that's a good time to update your BIOS, because everything's not working. You can only make it better, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I use CPU-Z for. Now, I'm going to check the health status of the hard drive. For that, I'm going to use Crystal Disk Info. This is another great free utility. I'm just going to type it as one word, Crystal Disk Info. One word. Google search is going to automatically pull it up. This is the one I want right here, very first link. and you don't want to click on this download here. You want to look for the authentic download link. Once again, I want the portable version of this. I don't want to install it. So I need to go back, and you'll see this download center right here for Crystal Dew World. This is the same. I just want the second link rather than the first one. This confuses a lot of people. When this page comes up here, there's the standard edition, which has 3 themes. You have to go right across the line. There's the installer, there's the portable. There's the Carey edition. There's the installer, there's the portable. There's the Shizuku edition. So they have these Japanese versions and have animations and whatnot. I just want the portable version of the standard edition as a zip file, which means I click right here. You understand? Everything is in a straight line. This is not, people go, I don't know what to click on. It's so confusing. It's not confusing. Read the screen. It's all right in front of you. Be patient. It's so frustrating. People are so impatient. They're just looking for a great big download button. That's how they got themselves infected to begin with. So right here, standard edition, straight across. Installer? No. Portable? Yes. Click once. Small download, just 4.6 megs. Great utility. Highly recommend it. If you've got a mechanical hard drive, you should be running this and checking the health status of your drive. It could be failing and you don't even realize it. This is a great wake-up call for a lot of customers, a lot of people, a lot of end users, because they're not experiencing a problem that they're knowingly seeing with their own eyes or feeling as a sense of slowness, does not mean there's not a problem. And so this can alert you well beyond the time limit where suddenly your system doesn't boot. This could be your early warning. It's free, it's safe. Back, go to show folder. We'll extract that. Right there, hit extract, extract all. This is a very simple virus cleanup, and every system that comes into my shop goes through this entire process. This takes forever. The average cleanup takes about 6 hours. So when customers go, well, I don't want to pay $125, well, I don't want to spend 6 hours, so it doesn't matter to me. You don't want to pay it? Don't hire me. But this is, once again, part of the business. You're going to have customers who don't see a value in what you do. Don't worry about changing their mind. Find customers who see a value in what you do. I'm just deleting those things I just installed. Let's get rid of CPU-Z, the download file, and let's get rid of Crystal Disk Info. Let's delete that. Just cleaning up my mess. So here, let me close this out so you can focus in on what I'm seeing. There's the details of the installed drive. It's a Western Digital 500 gig drive. Health status is good. It's running 41 degrees Celsius. If you're American like me, Celsius doesn't make heads or tails. It doesn't make any sense. You can change the function of the temperature. Where is it? Temperature type to Fahrenheit, 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything's good. If this was yellow, there'd be caution. That would let you know the hard drive is showing signs of failure and you should recommend a replacement to your customer. If this is red, the drive is in a failed status and it should be replaced immediately. So we're good. Now this is not an end-all be-all. This could come up as good even though the hard drive is failing, but chances are the drive is in fact just fine. So there's no software that I'm aware of that accurately diagnoses hardware 100% of the time. But this does tend to be more accurate than not, and I have grown to trust it and use it as an advisement tool for what I say to my customers and how I handle my customers. So all these folders I have created, I can now delete these things. I don't need them anymore. People don't have much of a sense of humor when it comes to giving them the bill or talking about things that need to be upgraded. So I have to be very confident that I don't recommend things that aren't absolutely necessary. I do want my customers to see a difference, you know, that their computer's running more reliably or it's running faster or preferably both, and that they will continue to recommend me and continue to utilize my services in the future. There's nobody at Geek Squad that's this thorough with a computer. They're going to do the absolute minimum to get you in and out as quickly as possible to increase that profit margin. And that's why it's always better, in my opinion, to go to somebody who's self-employed. Not that everybody who's self-employed is honest, but they're more likely to be than a corporation that's just out to make the most amount of profit. And that's just my opinion. Now, I hate icons being hidden like that, but because this lady doesn't know what she's doing, probably best that they remain hidden. I'm going to go ahead and grab Malwarebytes. I'm hoping that Malwarebytes will pick up on the things that Emsisoft missed, because I'd like to see those other things removed, but I'm just going to go to malwarebytes.com. I also want to bring up Windows Defender and make sure that it's running. Just because it's installed doesn't mean that it's running. A lot of viruses and spyware actually turn Windows Defender off. It does show that it's running. Let's go ahead and hit scan now, and we'll let it do a quick scan and minimize that while it's... I don't want to exit, I want to minimize. We'll do the free download on Malwarebytes. And it'll take just a minute to download. That's a 52 meg file, not too big. The current version is 3 now. If you're running Malwarebytes 2, you should upgrade to the latest version for the most protection, for the most effective protection. And then you'll see, just by visiting the site, a link opened up on its own, which I am not a fan of, but that's what's happening at Malwarebytes here. This is a bot, so no sense even acknowledging its existence as far as I'm concerned. We can close that window. We'll click on the executable file that we downloaded and begin the installer. Click OK. I'm going to close this window now. Click Next. Agree to the license agreement. Click Next, click Next, click Next, click Next, click Next, click Install. Another utility that's free that I like to put on customers' computers is called Unchecky, and it will automatically uncheck unwanted offers that get bundled into free applications that people download. It doesn't uncheck all of the free offers from all of the free applications that people download, but it's better than nothing, and it helps prevent their homepage from getting changed or their search engine from getting changed. And they sit there and go, I don't know what all this, I didn't do anything. I just opened up my Internet Explorer one day or my Google Chrome and my homepage changed. If they can even use the word homepage, which they often don't, they'll just say it used to open in AOL and now it opens at Yahoo, and I don't know why. Well, because you downloaded it. I didn't download it. Yes, you did. Well, what was it? I don't know what it was. I wasn't there when you did it, but it didn't happen on its own. It's very frustrating because people are looking for answers and you can't give them the answers. That deals in something called forensics. Forensics is like what somebody who performs an autopsy on a body does forensics. Somebody who looks at bullet fragments to determine which gun they came from is forensics. So trying to determine what somebody did to cause a problem is forensics, and it's extraordinarily time-consuming and expensive. And people don't want to spend the money. So when you go look, for me to research this and look through your browser history and try and determine and recreate what it was, could take weeks or months. So unless they continually do it over and over and over again, you just go look, forget about it, and move on. If it continues to be a problem, we'll have to address it. Hopefully it was just a mistake you made, an error in judgment, a website that popped up that you've never been to before and you'll never go to again. Forget about it and move on. They're asking you because they want to know, what can I do to prevent it in the future? Well, I don't know what you did in the first place. So, again, comes with the job. Let's, it says awesome, you're protected. Let's check for updates. I think if I hit scan, start scan. It didn't check for, I thought it checked for updates before it did a scan. Oh, there it is, checking for updates now. Perfect. Very rarely do I see Malwarebytes find something that the Emsisoft Emergency Kit didn't find. It does happen the other way around, though. I have seen, like if I've run Malwarebytes first, then I run Emsisoft's Emergency Kit, the Emergency Kit often finds things Malwarebytes didn't find because Malwarebytes doesn't really look for potentially unwanted programs. Emsisoft does. But There's always exceptions to the rule, and you can't just say it's no sense in running this because it hasn't detected things before. There's always a first time, and like I say, with new viruses coming out every day, new spyware and malware coming out every day, it's absolutely possible that the behavior of the programs is different. We've already found one thing, which I think is very interesting. Well, it looks like I got a storm coming in. A storm's a-coming! All right, this is going to take a little while, so we'll go ahead and let that run. Again, Malwarebytes doesn't take as long as it used to either, but depending on the size of the drive, how full it is, how fast the drive is, there's a lot of variables that are going to determine how long this is going to take. Sitting here and watching it live like this is kind of like watching grass grow. But that's where it's good when you do stuff pre-recorded. You can edit it and jump right to the, skip right to the last page of the book and see how it ends, But this is real world. This is exactly what it is to be a tech. If you want to consider doing this for a living, this is what you need to be prepared for. It's a lot of waiting. Like I say, usually this is the time I would spend working on another machine, doing laundry, doing dishes, cooking dinner. If I'm home working, that's the great thing about being at home working. I can be doing numerous things at the same time. Still only have one thing there. But already, if the computer were brought back to the customer in this condition, the customer would probably be fine with it. I'm just extraordinarily thorough. I want to make sure that not only is it as clean as it can possibly be, but I want it to run as fast as it can run. I want it to be as reliable as it can be. And the only way to do that I'm aware of is by going through each and every step one by one. If you skip any step, if you take any shortcuts, it results in a job that's not complete, not to the level that I demand it to be. And that's why my customers come back to me, and that's why I've had customers for years and years and years. Recently, this is really sad, there's a customer of mine that when I initially started my business, he's the one who kind of encouraged me to do it. He's a Vietnam veteran who lost part of his leg in Vietnam and gets around in a wheelchair. And I met him in the 1990s, and it made national news recently that his stepson beat him to death. There's a lot of reasons why you might lose a good customer. Having a customer murdered is a pretty crappy reason for losing a customer. I last saw this guy about 6 months ago. In fact, he's the one where I made a video a few months ago where there was this really old modem that I was showing off. It's really not that long ago. Well, that belonged to him. And seeing this news article, his name is not mentioned, but you guys can look up the news article for, I think you can just search veteran beaten Glendale, Arizona. I think that'll probably pull it up. And the guy's stepson, and I met the stepson numerous times when I would go over to the house. The stepson was there. Stepson's in his 40s. The customer of mine was, when I met him, he was in his 50s, so he had to be in his 70s now. He's, he's a disabled veteran. He's not a young guy who's really able to defend himself. And what a shocking story. I mean, what a shock. I've had customers that have died, but I've never had one that was murdered. Not that I'm aware of. And certainly none I've known as well as I've knew him. So that happened back in the first week of July, just about a month ago. Look at the difference here. Malwarebytes is finding a lot more than Emsisoft did. 56. Look at that. I'm happy to see that. Don't get me wrong. I'm shocked, but I'm happy because that means ideally that those things I was stopping manually, I'm hoping are part of the 56 things that Malwarebytes is finding. We're almost done. It's doing the heuristics right now. And and here's an example of the way technology is moving. Little old lady from Pasadena, 343,000 files on a computer that's barely used. And that's just practically stock from Acer, minus the spyware. So imagine when you're dealing with somebody who's a real computer enthusiast, this could be into the millions that it has to scan. And it takes a long time. All right, my Windows Defender got done scanning. Did it find anything? Of course, Windows Defender didn't find anything. History. You can view quarantine files. And Malwarebytes will run alongside, the free version will run alongside any antivirus you currently have. There's always that question. You're not supposed to run two antiviruses at the same time. Two anti-malware products you can run at the same time. Though you shouldn't. You shouldn't run both Emsisoft and Malwarebytes. You should run one or the other as far as activated versions go. You can always run the free versions regardless. But what you end up doing isn't necessarily adding any more protection as you are slowing your machine down by having it redundantly check the same files twice through two different applications. Sometimes the applications interfere with each other. So it's not recommended. Just pick one and then use one of the free download tools from time to time to get your second opinion. And whether you choose to use spyware hunter or something, or webroot spy sweeper, or whatever they call it today, or there's a bunch of different spyware tools. Use the one you trust. I trust Emsisoft Emergency Kit and Malwarebytes. Those are the only two I trust now. All the other ones to me have let me down in the past, and I've not gone back to revisit them. There were tools I used 10 years ago that are still available today that to me have not been able to keep up with the times, and that other products have come along and been better. Now this is shocking. This is exactly what I was expecting to see initially when I thought there'd be like 70 infections that Emsisoft would find. Look, we're up almost to 2,000. Oh, we're over 2,000 now. That's incredible. I love that. Absolutely love it. The bigger that number is, the happier I am, because all that stuff can be removed from this computer, and this computer is going to run better as a result. There's nothing that's detecting that this customer needs. So I don't know what that is, but I'll happily remove it. It is my opinion from experience that you do not need to look at the list of things it finds to second guess Malwarebytes or Emsisoft. If that comes up and says it should be removed, then it should be removed. That's how much I trust these products. And they haven't let me down in a very, very long time. It's possible to get false positives. That's what a system restore point is for. But I have never had to do a system restore point in years as a result of a virus cleanup. And that number keeps growing. We're up to 2,700 now. We're over 2,700 infections. That's amazing. So once again, trying to simulate this in a lab is just not anywhere close what it's like to dealing with a real infected computer. And look at the difference between the Emsisoft Emergency Kit and the improvement that Malwarebytes has made on version 3. This is version 3.1.2. Now, of course, these videos, this is being shot live in early August of 2017. You might be watching this video sometime in 2019 and go, well, there's no version 3.1.2 anymore. Well, no, because the version's been updated probably several times between now and then. So I do ask you to keep in mind the date the video was made anytime you're watching videos on YouTube to make sure you're watching something current. Now, all of these are checked by default, which is good. A lot of stuff in the app data folder. Oh, and look, these are pups. Malwarebytes is now detecting potentially unwanted programs. So that's a good improvement. Total of 3,473 identified threats, and we're going to quarantine the selected items, and everything is selected by default. And this may take a little while as it has to go through and individually quarantine those. I would just delete them, but I don't see the option to delete anymore. So we'll just quarantine, that's fine. Just get them out of there. You can always empty the quarantined area later or just ignore it, it doesn't matter. Again, if hard drive space is an issue, these threats aren't even taking up that much space. And once they're quarantined, they're no longer threats anymore. I don't understand this whole point of quarantining unless we have a problem with the computer because it's identified a false positive, and then we can go back into the quarantine rather than system restore and take things out of quarantine to make something work. But again, I haven't had to do that in a long, long time. I'm very confident that this computer doesn't need those 3,473 things. So that's just amazing to me. Look how much junk we've cleared off this computer between the Emsisoft Emergency Kit and running CCleaner to get rid of all the temp files. There's still almost 3,500 files that need to be removed. That's insane. That's from normal everyday usage from an average computer user that is not a computer enthusiast, just checking email, reading some articles on the web, and that's how easily they get themselves in trouble. 3,473 threats out of the 3,473 threats that it found. This rotating dial is exactly what Malwarebytes looks like when it runs. It seems many of you in the chat are far from being computer technicians if you can't tell the difference between a video loading and a program running. So this is good. This shows your limitations as an individual and what it means to be a computer technician and how you have to recognize these differences. So good learning experience there. There's still some maintenance being done by Malwarebytes, some finishing of the threat quarantine. So it's still going to be a few more minutes before it's done. So if you're an impatient person, you definitely don't want to look into this line of work. Notification that it's completed, and to complete the process we have to restart. Let's go ahead and do that now and see if our restart's any faster than it was before. Certainly shouldn't be any slower, although the first reboot may take a little longer as Malwarebytes continues to do the house cleaning on the first reboot. Got the desktop back up and running here, and I want to do one more scan with Malwarebytes. I want to see a scan come up that says 0 infections found. I'll feel much better about that. Sometimes software doesn't catch things the first go around, and that is just standard operating procedure. Most software these days does get it all in the first run. But you saw that took quite a while, and that is part of the job. Like I said, being a computer technician, there's a certain amount of patience you've got to have. If you don't have that, seriously, this is not a line of work for you. Generally speaking, You'll be working on multiple projects at the same time, so when you're running a virus scan or a cleanup, you'll be then off to another workstation doing starting another job. This is still loading. I've clicked on Malwarebytes and nothing has happened yet, but the hard drive light is blinking like crazy, so it's busy doing something. So we're just going to give that a minute here to catch up. And I'm almost out of battery. I think I've got about 45 minutes left. So I'm not going to be able to complete this repair on camera live because I'm just running out of battery. However, what remains to be done is to go to Windows Update, make sure all the latest updates are installed. I'm going to remove all those disabled items from startup. There's no reason for them to be there, so it can be in normal startup mode instead of selective startup. It's not a necessary thing to do, but it's something I like to keep everything clean, and I don't want somebody to stumble in there and turn something on that's spyware or malware because they don't know what it is and they're curious. There's no guarantee this computer will come back to me in the future for future repairs. So I want to prevent that from occurring. A lot of people disagree with that. They think the more the customer screws it up, the more money they can make. That's not my business model. There's always plenty more computers to fix. There's no shortage. I don't need the same customers coming back to me for problems that could have been avoided if I just, remove things like system restore points and things that could get them in trouble. So we'll have to re-download new threats. In Malwarebytes, I'll put a 1-year license on here for the customer, and that will help prevent infections, but it won't, nothing can protect them 100%. Ideally, when they click on things they shouldn't, it will pop up and let them know, and they will learn the patterns of what they're doing that's causing the error message. I want to do another scan. And ideally, the threats will be 0 when it's done. This is one of those situations where the user profile was massively infected, and like the earlier suggestion was to, when I was trying to clean the virus, to create another user profile. That would have been an easy fix, really, to just create a new user profile, copy the customer's documents and pictures and music over into the new profile, and then delete the old profile. So there's, like I said, when I started this process, there's a lot of different ways of accomplishing the same task. And as I already said again, you don't normally sit here and watch this process as you guys are doing. Normally, you let the process run and go off and do something else. And while this is running, I can actually change those power settings. You saw it went to sleep while it was scanning, which was really annoying. So I just want to go to the power options. And it's really slow. So we can just go to the control panel. Oops. Changed on me. Power options. Well, that's fine. I got up the control panel that I'm used to, which is this one, and I'm just going to go to power settings, power options right there. And it's going to be a little bit slow because Malwarebytes is scanning in the background. I hate balanced mode. I absolutely hate it. I like, under show additional, there's high performance. So I like high performance, and then I change the plan settings and make sure that sleep and hibernation are disabled. So we can turn off the display, that's fine. That's all we want to do. Put the computer to sleep, never. We can change advanced power settings in here and just make sure that hibernation has been disabled as well. It should be. Some manufacturers alter this, which is why I always check it. I don't necessarily need to check it when I do the install of Windows, but Acer has their own configuration, Dell has their own, HP has their own, etc. So we just look in here, we want to make sure we don't want the wireless to ever turn off, which is good. We don't want the computer to sleep, which is never. We don't want hybrids. It's got hybrid sleep on. I guess that's okay. Hibernation is the one I want to make sure. Allow wake timers, that's fine. We don't want USB to turn off either. You should always be on. So the selective suspend, we're going to disable that. We want USB to always stay on. That's why when you sometimes wake a computer up from sleep, things from USB don't reactivate again. There's little driver issues or compatibility issues. And I can go to the command line, and I need to be in an elevated command prompt as administrator. And I'm going to just turn off hibernation mode. It's a real simple command. It works in Windows 7, 8, and 10. It's the same command. So I'm just going to type in CMD. And again, I've got the computer's really, first of all, it's not fast to begin with, but I'm asking it to scan and do this at the same time, and there's a really big delay. I'm going to pause this for a minute. Let's go back here and do this again. So even just me clicking on this is taking a while for it to come up. CMD is what I want. Don't know why it's not working. That's better. So there's the command prompt, right click, run as administrator. Hard drive's still going crazy. Even though I paused this, it's still bogging the computer down for some reason. So I'm going to go ahead and resume it. And then I'll just wait for that command prompt to open up eventually. So yeah, I still have the regular disk cleanup to do by right-clicking on the C drive, going to disk cleanup, make sure to remove all files from there. And we've already checked, we've got the latest BIOS. There's our command prompt. There we go. So right in the command prompt, like I say, Windows 7, 8, or 10, you just type power CFG -H space off. So power CFG space -H space off. That disables hibernation. It'll no longer be an option on this computer, and then that will be a problem I don't have to deal with in the future. The computer will still appear to be asleep to the customer. In other words, the monitor is still going to go off. Before, when it went off, the power light would blink on and off, and then the customer would wiggle the mouse. And the customer didn't have any problems with that. I personally have problems with it. I find it annoying when I'm running scans and things like this, and as you witnessed on the live feed, it went to sleep on me. Or it just about was ready to. It actually shut the monitor down and was ready to go to sleep. And when it goes to sleep, the processes all freeze. It doesn't complete the scan. And that's generally an invitation for problems because the program's not designed for that. And that should be it. Let me bring the camera back up. Let's see. Let's go back and you can see how much darker it got in here. Let's bring this back. Oh wow, it got really dark here. We're about having a rainstorm about ready to come in. Looks like I've got about 35 minutes left on my battery, so I am just about out of time. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the feed, but that's pretty much the process. Like I say, Windows update still has to be done. I'll probably do a defragmentation just to be thorough. And want to check and make sure there's no proxy servers set in Internet Explorer settings. Or I'll actually just reset Internet Explorer just like I reset Chrome, even though it looks like she's mostly using Chrome. And then the computer will be ready to be delivered back. No parts were needed. It certainly would benefit from a solid state drive or a 7200 spin hard drive, or spinner as they call them, a mechanical drive. 8 gigs of RAM from 4 would certainly be better, but that kind of memory is a bit expensive. It's using laptop memory. Let me give you a close-up of the inside of the computer real quick before we go, just so I know I only showed it to you from a distance before. Our scan did complete and 0 threats are found now, which is good. Close that down. And then let me just grab the camera here. This is kind of hard to do on a live feed because I can knock a cable loose and knock me offline, but let me try. Everything's all secured here. Okay, here we go. If I don't trip on anything. So here's the inside of that computer. So there's the CPU fan there, just a cheap fan. There's one of the SO DIMMs. And then there's a socket for another SO DIMM there. Motherboard battery. There's no expansion bays in this at all except for maybe what appears to be a Wi-Fi socket, which is way up here at the top. And then as we turn around this way, you can see the optical drive is there, and then the hard drive is behind it. And it just appears that these two screws come out from the front. So here from the front, those two screws would come out, and then this whole cage would come out, allowing you to change out the optical drive or the hard drive that sits underneath of it, back under there. And then there's the power supply made by Lite-On. Pretty weak little power supply, but you know, when you buy these systems like this, you're just getting the bare minimum. And then down also at the bottom is your header for your front port USB and front port audio. And that's it. That's all there is to it. It's a mini ITX system, very small system, and very slow. Also very inexpensive, and that's what's ideal to consumers. And that's what, if you're a technician, you get lucky enough to work on those. And again, not that the systems I build are necessarily superior as far as reliability goes. They're a lot faster, and I think you get more for your money than a system like this. So, you know, this is really, like if you see this keyboard, I don't know how much of a reference point you can get here, but the keyboard's bigger than the computer. So anyway, that's going to wrap up the feed, if you can even see me in the dark here. And I appreciate everybody watching. I will see you again very, very soon. I hope you learned how to clean up your own computer, how to double check, because like I said, a lot of people think their computers are clean. A lot of people would have run that first virus scan, removed those threats, and thought it was clean, when another program found 3,473 more infections the first one missed. And that's going to vary depending on the application, depending on the threat. So always make sure you're using the latest updates. Always use the latest version. Always use, anytime you can use portable versions of programs like CCleaner, CPUZ, Crystal Disk Info, Crystal Disk Mark. Even Revo Uninstaller has a portable version. Use those portable versions to keep the registry clear and keep the user profile clear of leftover detritus, which will always be left over. You'll be surprised how much stuff you can find in your user profile of programs you thought you removed a long, long time ago. Pieces of it are still in there. Anyway, I hope you benefited from it. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.